Okay, welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting of October 20th. Recognize we reside on the territory of the Shanu and Sauk nations. So we have a couple of presentations. Have the agenda approval first. Everybody agree about the agenda? Moved by Mayor Little, seconded by Councillor Gray. All in favor?
I'd like to move an amendment to the agenda.
Okay, what would that be?
That tonight's Council of the Whole agenda be amended to include an item under other business to consider a resolution recommending that a special council meeting be held this evening immediately following the conclusion of this Committee of the Whole meeting to discuss our tax exemption policy. So moved.
Ms. Hanson, is that possible?
Has it been seconded? Is there a seconder? It needs to be seconded.
Seconded by Councillor Donaldson.
Councillor, through you to our Deputy Corporate Officer. So I believe the motion is to hold a council meeting after this meeting. And so I think that is the question of whether, that is the question, but maybe to our Deputy Corporate Officer.
Council would have to waive the 24-hour notice requirement, and it would have to be a special council meeting.
So obviously
no notice has been given.
We can't do this tonight.
You have.
I believe we can. The meeting would start. The first order of business of the meeting would be to waive the notice requirement for the meeting.
If the motion passes.
All right. So any more discussion?
Yeah, I would vote in opposition to this because the rest of the council hasn't had former notice, so we haven't been able to prepare for this, nor is it transparent not only to the other council members, but it's not transparent to the public. And so I think we should do things in order. There's a reason why you give 24 hours notice. And I think we should go according to our usual processes.
So perhaps I could explain the motion. So the purpose of the special council meeting would be to consider a motion to grant the 2026 property tax exemption to eligible community groups in accordance with the Metchosin permissive tax exemption policy F100.60. We have very little time to act, but if we meet tonight, there is still time to pass a permissive tax exemption bylaw by October 31st. It means waiving notice for a special meeting as a first order of business, putting bylaw notice in Capital Daily this Wednesday and next Wednesday rather than in the print media in accordance with section 94.4 of the community charter, and holding another special meeting next week, probably Wednesday, to give 3 readings, Thursday, 4th reading, and then we're ready to go on October 31st, according to the provincial law. Why hold a special meeting on this topic? In 2 words, procedural fairness. I've got 6 points. 1, we did not provide reasonable notice on the decision to be made on July 14th. There was no notice of the elimination of tax exemption process. There was no notice on the use of the grant process in its stead. Councillor Epp, I think you said the decision will be a shock to some. The second point, we did not provide clear information about the decision-making criteria. We asked the various organizations to fill in an application this year for the first time ever. And then we didn't use, the council didn't use the criteria when they made their decision that night, evidenced by the approval of a grant to the Humane Society when the staff note explains that the Humane Society did not meet the eligibility criteria for a permissive tax exemption. Now, I do recall that on March 3rd, 2025, this council did approve a tax exemption for 2026 for the Humane Society before the policy was adopted. The third point, on July 14th, council did not provide clear and meaningful reasons for its decision. I wasn't in the room, but I went and looked at the tape. Words were spoken like, I was previously unaware of the non-municipal portion of taxes were included in the permissive tax exemption, or reasonable and what taxpayers expect, or my impression is there would be no financial harm to organizations, or The grant is for only the municipal portion of taxes. That would be fair. The fourth point, procedural fairness, as far as I'm aware, no information was provided to eligible organizations about any available review and appeal processes. Point 5, for some organizations, the decision was not based on what I would call relevant information. And we've learned that, for example, the financial picture at St. Mary's Anglican, we've had quite a few letters from the church explaining their financial situation, different than what was expressed in our note, I think, or the understanding therein. We've also received correspondence from Morgan Yates about the BC Parks Foundation and its situation financially. No one raised those issues at the table that night. My sixth point and final point, I don't believe that council was considerate of individual needs and circumstances of the organizations affected. I think of St. Mary's in particular, but we've had plenty of correspondence and residents saying the ripple effects on organizations served in our community are not positive. And I don't believe there's been discussion with the eligible organizations on the impact of the change from the permissive tax exemption to the grant, which is provided in a smaller amount. So in summary, I think council has a duty of fairness that has not been applied here and should be remedied forthwith. We can do that with a special council meeting tonight after that time is out.
Councillor Jochen.
Thank you, Councillor Epp. Councillor Gray mentions the July 14th meeting, and he said he didn't attend that meeting or wasn't at the table. I am pretty sure that Councillor Gray was at the table. I recall watching the discussion, and Councillor Gray was seated at that seat. I recognize Councillor Gray was not at the September 15th meeting, but it is the July 14th meeting when there was full discussion of the options before us. So now, if that's an honest mistake, fair enough, but yeah.
Sure, I'll correct that. I'm talking about the September 15th meeting. I got my meetings mixed up. We talked about it on the first was March 3rd, where we granted the 2026 tax exemption to the Humane Society. Then on June 30, there was a council meeting that I did attend where we talked about the permissive tax exemption policy. Then we met again on July 14th, where we adopted the permissive tax exemption policy. And it was the September 15th meeting. Thank you, Councillor Jochen.
Mayor Little.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's important to point out that the whole discussion regarding permissive tax exemptions and who we are given tax exemptions to started in September of 2023, and there was a motion put forward by Councillor Gray to investigate that. And that is a motion that has carried through. We've asked the CFO to give us reports on our financial position. We discussed specifically the permissive tax exemptions on June 30th. We discussed them again in July 14th, and then we discussed them in September to say that this is a surprise. We have discussed it at 3 different meetings. Another point is that we received a report from our CFO outlining that in his opinion, it wasn't a financial burden for the groups outlined in the permissive tax exemption to pay the other levies. So we voted to provide the municipal tax portion, the levies that the municipal taxes. And I thought that was fair because that would be we speak on behalf of the taxpayers of Metchosin. What I didn't think was fair was that the rest of the taxpayers in Metchosin would pick up the tab for the other levies, such as CRD, the library, the West Shore Parks and Recreation, the school taxes. And so that is the portion that we've said we will ask them to pay. There is a possibility that they could come back to the grant and aid process, which I think would actually be more transparent because we would see their financial statements. Some of them are audited financial statements, and we would see if they're saying they can't afford the $3,000 or the $8,000 bill, we would see their financial statements And maybe that would help us understand more fully whatever wasn't included in the financial statements that they gave the CFO, because the permissive tax exemptions are examined every year. It's not a given that you're given it for a lifetime. It's for that every year. And so I think every one of those organizations will have the ability to come back to grant and aid and plead their case for that other portion of the taxes that is not the municipal taxes, but the other levies. Thank you.
Councillor Shukin.
Thank you, Councillor Rapp. I'm going to vote against this motion. Councillor Gray's mentioned procedural fairness and a number of procedural matters, but we would not be armed to hold such a meeting tonight. As Mayor Little mentioned, we have had significant discussion about this and significant opportunity to have discussion about it. I recognize that Councillor Donaldson and Councillor Gray had to recuse themselves. I will say that Councillor Gray is pretty quick in his feet in terms of procedural matters, and it would have been interesting at that time if Councillor Gray had asked if we could break up the various items to vote on so he could have been present. Same with Councillor Donaldson. But the one thing, I'm just going to go back to this again. We have voted to provide $97,000 of tax exemptions to these 7 groups. And that is a change that's come from awareness of what is actually in the permissive tax exemptions. And I have not heard anybody say to me from the general public that they were aware of how much money was going out every year for permissive tax exemptions. We very much support these groups, and we are doing that in a tangible way with $97,000 in tax support going out. As Mayor Little said, there is another opportunity to provide funds through the grant and aid process, and I'm going to be supportive of that, and specifically trying to see if we can look more closely at how that program supports the local groups this year. So, again, I will not be supporting the motion.
Thank you. I find it, this is all really ironic because council has been, ever since it's got elected, we've just been absolutely battered by people about taxes and not increasing taxes. And a lot of people that are in this room. And so when the CFO brought up this the figures about this, and we could realize we could give residents, a 2 to 3% decrease in their taxes, I naively thought people would be happy. It was definitely a little bit out there. So, I just feel like you just can't have everything. And this council is faced with unprecedented rising costs on so many levels that are non-negotiable. And that's just without even the costs that have been rising in the municipality. So we have to do something. I think the budget talks are going to be quite scary because we don't really have much to do but raise taxes to try to pay for this stuff. So anyway, I won't be supporting this motion. I am sorry it's caused such upset, but I think, for now, and maybe this will change a year from now, but I think for now it is the right thing to do. Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you for your comments. In the application that looks like it's a renewed application, I don't recall seeing this before. It's my understanding, like grant and aid, you would provide your finances, and the CFO did report on that in his report from what I've seen. So that was an awareness, and there was a matrix in that package as well, similarly to what we've done in grant and aid this past year. And yet we went back and voted on that grant and aid like we've always done, so we completely ignored the work that went into revising it. The grant and aid that comes up in the spring is only $5,000. We're talking substantially more, so for these groups to come, there's not money there. So to say to come back to that is very misleading. As far as notice to these groups, I was not aware until this until we've got over 65 letters for us to reconsider this, that there was no notice to the groups that it would be split off. So that's also, I think that would have been respectful had we prepared that, and that certainly was an oversight on our part.
Mary,
Yeah, I think we have the tools to be able to increase the grant and aid commensurate with the other, with the portions for those other levies. I think that we have that ability as a tool, as a council, to increase the grant and aid. I don't think that is misleading. So we do have that ability. For sure, the CFO did tell us that the organizations had the money to cover the cost, and it wouldn't be an overburden for them. He didn't actually give us the figures, as I remember, what exactly was their financial, their revenue, for instance, minus their expenses. So I think that would be great to see that information at a future council meeting. Regarding comments about Councillor Donaldson and Councillor Gray recusing themselves, and the accusations that we somehow bundled this together so that they weren't able to vote. We did it the way we had done it in past years. I think that is not very polite to our staff to suggest that they would do such a thing. If you watch the tape, I had just introduced the item, and the two councillors submitted their conflict of interest, and it's not up to me as mayor or up to me as the chair to dispute that or to try and get them to try to have a discussion at that point about their conflict of interest. It's the wrong time to do that. But it certainly wasn't done intentionally to prevent people from discussing. As I mentioned, we started talking about this with the notice of motion from Councillor Gray, September 11th, 2023. Then we discussed it June 30th, in July, and then in September. So there was ample time outside of the council meeting to, if you had huge reservations, and I honestly didn't hear any reservations at the table about the suggestions from the CFO about splitting up the tax. I didn't hear that. And I will watch the tapes again to see if somebody brought that up, but I'm quite sure there wasn't outstanding concerns about that. And so I just thought I would correct that misinformation.
thank you. We are going to have, we'll be asking Mr. Creek to share a few notes with us that he has. We were speaking with earlier today. So he will make his comments after public participation. Any more discussion on this? Councillor Shukin?
Yeah, thank you. Again, I'm going to just restate, I can't support the motion. I did want to pick up on a comment that you had made, Councillor Rapp, about the burden in front of this administration. And we have to consider, again, we have granted $97,000 in tax relief. But the other things that we have to think about in terms of moving ahead with district business is consider in 2024, we injected $80,000 into the school to maintain its operations. We provide grants to other organizations. For example, the Seniors Information Resource Center receives $15,000 an annual grant. The community house, on top of the tax relief it gets, also receives $5,000. And then there's another $10,000 that we set aside for Metchosin Day as well. I will recall that at the September 15th meeting, we had no fewer than 3 organizations come to council seeking money, all of whom were highly worthy. So we're being asked always to support community and nonprofit groups, and very often we do deliver on those. So thank you.
We also have $5,000 in the budget every year to support the community hall. Councillor anybody else, any more discussion? Or Councillor Johnson?
Yeah, the reason I would support this is giving notice to these organizations which do exemplary work, and there is a huge ripple effect whether you go to church or you use the halls or help with feeding little birdies at Wild Ark. I suspect that if we're going to cut back on them, then we'll cut back on all the other services as well without notice. What I'm suggesting or supporting with this motion is that we pause this year and reconsider it. And it's not because I was at the table for some meetings and not for other meetings. It's more that there was lack of consultation, I believe, with these organizations. So they have budgets that they probably not saw this coming. I don't know. Similarly, as we haven't had our budget yet to see where we're going to go. We've got some major projects coming up, some multi-million dollars. And so, you know, we're going to have to really tighten up our bootstraps and reconsider some of the wish lists and things. And then there's things, yes, we don't have choices over. And some of those options we've been given by the CFO is to, not from him personally, but as research has shown, is maybe we opt out on some of our contracts. So we start whittling away all of these different things, not having library, not having recreational services, putting more burden on churches and halls and other organizations that do benefit the betterment of the whole community. There are, if we step back and do none of those things, what are we actually doing for our community? Not just here in Metchosin, but regionally. We don't have any health and wellness. We're not investing in that. I struggle with that, especially when I'm sitting on two of the boards that are being questioned. And yet I've been working hard to promote those different organizations. We have fitness now in Metchosin. We have library services that are coming to educate people in Metchosin. We can strip it all away and then go back home and just do nothing and not be a community. With things being really stressed in the world, the province, our region, people get a lot of joy out of volunteering, and probably more will come together and do more volunteering. But to add more strain to that, I just think that if we paused and reevaluate our own budget of the 97,000 and or the other half of it, and where that's going and what stressors we're going to put on that consultation, that would have been respectful with these organizations.
Councillor Gray?
I guess simply put, I don't favor austerity type policies. It seems to me we have the budget ahead of us. We've had some notion discussing the fire hall that money will be tight and will potentially going into debt. I would just prefer that we look at our priorities both in spending and priorities if we're going to be cutting, and then comparing across different items and deciding where we might add money and remove money. This is the first item that came across our desk since we heard about some financial issues, and so we made some cuts. And I'd rather get a look at the whole picture and then work from there. I agree with Councillor Donaldson that a pause would be appropriate. These organizations, some of them have had a tax-exempt status since the inception of Metchosin 40 years ago. It's not an emergency to cut their budgets. It's more of a long-term question. How are we doing it? And I prefer to engage with the groups and with the community on the topic.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? All opposed? That's be opposed.
So the last chance for tax exemptions tonight. So here's a letter from Councillor Donaldson and myself, Mayor Little, under section 12.6 of the community charter. And we're asking that you hold a meeting, a special meeting tonight to make the bylaw deadline for tax exemptions. I think we need to listen to the people. It's over to you now.
Okay, well, I'll read this out.
Point of order. I think, have we not, I think we voted on the proposal for the special meeting.
Yes, I thought we did.
Through the chair, if I may, you have voted on the amendment to the motion. Now
Okay.
you have to vote on approval of the agenda.
So with this, we would still require to give notice, which we haven't done. I think that if, obviously you two have had this planned, it would have been at least polite to give us a warning ahead of time. And so that we could have at least thought about it. I could have asked for guidance from our deputy corporate officer and our CAO, who's away this week. Anyways, I won't grant a special council meeting this evening without notice. The reason why we give notice is not only notice for the other councillors that weren't in on your scheme, but also notice to the public as well.
I'll just say I'd sent you an email requesting that we have a special meeting, and you provided no response to that. I think the point here this evening is I thought the motion would pass given the procedural circumstance we find ourselves in. It hasn't passed.
Well,
It's now up to
we
you as a
are-
mayor.
we
You're the
are
only
under-
person who can call a special meeting at this point.
Through the chair, we are under statutory obligation to give notice if we were to reconsider our motion that we had approved in September. I was told by our deputy corporate officer that we need a minimum of 2 weeks, so we won't have enough time to meet that October 31st permissive tax exemption deadline. Perhaps through the chair, if I could ask the deputy corporate officer about that.
Through the chair to the committee, under section 227 and 94 of the charter, for permissive tax exemption bylaws, we must give statutory notice. So that means 2 consecutive weeks in a newspaper advising that council's considering the bylaws. We are so close to, I don't even know if we would be able to provide notice. We may be able to in the Times Colonist and then again in the Goldstream Gazette. However, I would want to seek legal advice on that because otherwise the bylaws could be challenged. I honestly, I feel that it's we're too close to the deadline though at this point. But I would like to seek legal on that if that's what the committee wants to do.
Okay, well, the motion on the table is to have a special council meeting after this meeting. Is that correct?
No, the motion was to amend the agenda. So now if you want to call the question on just approval of the agenda.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
All right.
Councillor Epp, move approval of the agenda.
Okay, moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Mayor Little. All in favor? All right, moving on. First presentation of the evening is Dr. Jennifer Tynan and Jochen Moehr on the aerial spraying to fight the spongy moth. Thank you.
Hello, let's see if I can get this set up. I love that you have a municipal cat. Very exciting. I'm Jennifer Tynan. I'm here on behalf of Communities United for Clean Air, which is a local grassroots initiative aimed to stop aerial pesticide spraying in BC. It goes by Kafka for ease of time. wait, I point this over. Okay, here we go. I apologize for my lingering laryngitis. It sounds like I'm not the only one who's dealing with that. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar with urban aerial pesticide spraying in British Columbia, it began in the 1970s for the spongy moth, formerly known as the gypsy moth. They use an agent called 4A48B, which is a mixture of a bacteria called Bacillus thuringiensis and 86% undisclosed proprietary ingredients. The aerial application occurs by crop dusting airplanes in the early morning over houses, waterways, schools, hospitals, and daycares. There are generally 3 to 5 applications per treatment zone. Sorry for my sniffles too. Public opposition has occurred since the 80s, with occasional successful attempts to delay or stop the spraying in various communities. Urban aerial pesticide spraying is not permitted in many European and Scandinavian countries. So when I first heard about this about 10 years ago, I'm not from here, so I was a bit shocked. And I thought, let me look into this. I looked first at the governmental information, which was very reassuring. As a scientist, I should say, I'm here as a citizen and a mother, predominantly, but I'm also a physician. As a disclaimer, I'm not giving any health advice. My area of study is not insects or pesticides. But as a scientist, my next step, as most would be, was a literature review on the compound being sprayed. And what I found was alarming. Articles showing this bacteria to be anything but harmless. And there are some of the titles here. If anybody in the audience or at the table is interested in the specific articles, I would be happy to provide them. Articles showing persistence of this bacteria far beyond the spray window, showing effect on mammalian cells and lung tissue. Some of these we'll come back to. I'm pointing the wrong way. We're coming here. Thanks for your patience. So here's the one referring to mammalian cells. So the government literature presents that it only affects moths, and sometimes they mention other winged insects, but definitely not mammalian cells. Also studies showing lung inflammation after exposure. So I noticed there was a pattern of the most published scientists in this field. I'm not an expert, so I reached out to them and I said, can you help me learn more about this? And I was lucky to connect with a PhD microbiologist in Norway, who's an advisor to their government. And when he heard that we're spraying this bacteria over our cities in Canada, he was in disbelief. They considered this practice decades ago in Norway and decided, bar none, not to proceed. And they have not developed an issue with spongy moths in Norway. So he did his PhD in this very specific area, which is very confusing. He sequenced the genome of this bacillus during his studies at Cambridge. Why I'm telling you this is they found recently that its genome is the same as a larger group of bacteria known as B. cereus, which I realize is kind of funny, B. cereus, just in the drive here. The reason that's important is the mountain of evidence behind B. cereus is massive. It is a known pathogenic bacteria, pathogenic meaning disease-causing in humans. Most commonly, diarrhea, which can be life-threatening. So even if you look at the specific literature on the bacteria, there are concerns, but when you find out it's identical to this larger group, it gets even more concerning. So we've been appealing this spray for years now, and Dr. Granum has provided expert opinions and letters supporting us. He is not the only international expert that is trying to help. Here are some excerpts from his reports. This is where he's saying that this bacteria is now known to be the same as a larger group of bacteria. Here's another one where he is saying he would never stay in a city that he knew was being sprayed with this. I'll leave it there for a second. He is happy to communicate directly with anyone who is interested in more information. So we took a deep dive on the bacteria. which can be exciting or excruciating depending on your perspective. I've certainly found it excruciating at times. But the issue is much bigger than this. First of all, the spray compound is the bacteria and 86% undisclosed proprietary ingredients. So what can we guess those are? The company won't tell us, but there was a study in 1999 at UBC which took air samples following the spray and found many volatile organic compounds. These are compounds like toluene, benzene, and ethanol, which are known to be respiratory irritants and carcinogenic. The government recommends staying indoors to protect from the spraying if you are concerned. This UBC study found that spray concentrations indoors 3 hours after the spray were higher than concentrations outdoors. I find that concerning. So we've been appealing this for years. We were able to stop one of the sprays over Victoria General Hospital in 2022. During the appeal process, we realized that the process is moot because there isn't enough time for it to be formally heard from the time the permit's issued to when the spray begins. So we wasted a lot of time and money trying to appeal something that is unappealable. This takes us to 2024. Kafka started as a small group in Victoria, which rapidly expanded across the province and now has petitions with over 5,000 people signing in opposition. In 2024, awareness in Kelowna was high, and the school board took a stand. They were going to perform decontamination procedures of their school grounds to wash surfaces, to lower the exposure to children. And then the West Bank First Nation appealed the permit. Spraying in Kelowna in 2024 was cancelled. This was groundbreaking. It did proceed elsewhere in the province. This brings us to 2025, this year. No trapping results were reported on the government website, and there was no spraying anywhere in the province for the first year since 2016, which was a huge relief. So, where does that take us? There's one other study I'd like to mention. The Capital Regional District in the island did a study in 1999, a health surveillance study, looking at this specific practice, and they recommended after 1999 that if it were to continue, multidisciplinary health monitoring would be necessary with a plan well in place, far ahead of the first spray, with entrenched communication systems between health regions to report adverse effects and survey the public. Now, as you're probably guessing, this is not happening. There is no surveillance. There is a phone hotline. And yet, spraying has continued since 1999 unchecked. So what can we do? We need your help. We have municipalities who have taken a stand to say, we don't want our citizens or our land sprayed with this pesticide. Metchosin has some of the most beautiful land, properties, organic farms that I've seen. You've been a leadership in environmental protection and awareness, and I applaud you for that. I know you have a cosmetic pesticide policy, which is wonderful. I am hoping that you want to be part of groundbreaking change to put a stop to this practice for good. That being said, I'm not here to convince you of anything, so don't worry. I want to spark meaningful conversation, discussion, thought-provoking scientific articles for you to derive your own conclusions, which I support whatever that is. I do want to point out, I welcome the government coming with their perspective. We are in a short time frame to make change in that as of December, the spray plans will proceed unchecked. They are unappealable, as I've mentioned. If municipalities take a stand before the next 1 to 2 months, we have a chance to protect people, land, and animals in Metchosin. And that would be really exciting. Thank you so much for your time and for having us here. I am beyond grateful. I do believe in cleaner air, land, and water for all of us, and for us to be in keeping with international best practices in pesticide use. And now we have Dr. Moehr for more exciting information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to congratulate Dr. Tynan for her success. The spongy moth spraying, gypsy moth spraying was a thorn in my side for 25 years, and I had hoped that it would stop, and I was not able to achieve it by conferring with other naturalists, but Dr. Tynan was successful by getting the whole province behind her. So I want to basically make 4 points. Oh, God. Four points. First of all, spongy moths are rare and therefore innocuous. Secondly, 4A48B is a broad spectrum pesticide that is anything but specific to spongy moths. And 4A48B has therefore a very detrimental effect on our already compromised biodiversity. And hence the use of a devastating insecticide against an innocuous rare agent should cease. I want to go in a little bit more detail on each of these points. Spongy moths are so rare in British Columbia, in the area, that a network of naturalists which has maintained a website of their observations for something like 30 years. It's this Invert Alert website. It contains tens of thousands of observations of moths, butterflies, and other invertebrates, but not a single record of spongy moths. Apparently, they are occasionally caught in pheromone-baited traps put out by the Ministry of Forests. But even the Ministry of Forests concedes that there have not been any defoliations recorded in British Columbia. So they are rare and innocuous here. As to 4A48B, it is anything but a specific spongy moth, but specific to spongy moths. There's a lot of misleading publications around. The Ministry of Forest states it only affects Lymantria moth caterpillars, that's spongy moth caterpillars, after they ingested. That is correct. But in the Times Colonist, that turns into it only affects spongy moth caterpillars and is specific to their digestive system. That is wrong. The spec sheet for 4A48B states proudly that more than 30 pest species are susceptible. And there is another sentence in the manufacturer's information which translates into the fact that all Lepidoptera, that is all butterflies and moths, which in their larval stage feed on vegetation, are exterminated. And that became that became very clear in 1999 when our farm here in Metchosin was dusted. Within a very short time, all our formerly abundant butterflies like skippers or pine whites disappeared. The pine whites are a case in point. They used to be abundant, but now are rare. There is a publication by a guy by the name of Fletcher from 1901, which states, in August, the dead butterflies may be seen in vast numbers floating on the sea around Vancouver Island or thrown up along the beach in windrows, sometimes an inch or two in depth. We have about 200 kilometers of beaches between the mouth of the Cowichan River and the mouth of the Juan de Fuca River. If we assume that the windrows between these 200 kilometers can be condensed into a small space, for instance, 1 kilometer, 1 meter wide and 1 inch thick, that would translate into, that would translate into 30 billion white pine whites. And these would fill a cube of almost 14 meters wide, deep, and high. That was 1900. In the 1970s, a friend of mine went through Cathedral Grove and experienced them, quote, like a blizzard. Now, if we assume that those were 10,000 butterflies, they would fit into a cube of about 10 centimeters, so a lot less. And 50 years later, now, I have been waiting for 3 years to see the first one in 2025. In this invert alert record, there was only one entry, end of July this summer, until Metchosin Day, because on Metchosin Day I went out to Metchosin Lake and I saw a couple up in the trees. And that was also entered into invert alert, even though I could not record them. Anyway, there's a phenomenal reduction in the numbers of just one species. And that is certainly, that is paralleled by a reduction in the variety of species. And that is therefore a sign of how seriously compromised our biodiversity is already. So it does not make any sense to me, given the general loss of biodiversity, to risk all Lepidoptera on top of that by fighting a rare, harmless culprit, the spongy moth. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone at the table have questions? Yes, Councillor Gray.
Not a question so much, but just thanks to the two presenters. Very informative. I wonder, I did have one question. In 2026, are we expecting spraying? I think at MACCA we heard maybe not. Jennifer's just coming behind you there, Jochen.
We can stand here together. Okay. So the spray plans are generally announced the end of December or early January. The trapping results are usually posted in the fall. The last year they were not. And then once the spray plans are announced, which can be anywhere in BC, the permit applications are submitted and it's too late to appeal.
And
so yes, it's possible, very possible.
And through the chairs, does the province then seek the opinion of the district within which spraying is occurring?
So this part is a little bit fascinating. Yes, it does come past each municipal council. And in Kelowna and Cranbrook, municipalities did take a stand and did write letters when they were targeted as part of the informal appeal, not the formal environmental appeal board. But we did find that there is just a presumed sign-off. Because I thought it was a discussion for potential informed consent, but this is happening, sign off because it's happening, is the spirit behind it, from my understanding.
Thank you. And then just so folks know, our plan from our council resolution was that we would hear from Dr. Moehr and Dr. Tynan tonight, and then a representative of the provincial government who run the spray program will come another evening and address this. And then it will find its way onto our agenda for a discussion, depending on the wishes of the mayor.
Very good.
Councillor Gray, sorry.
Do I speak? So I was just thank you for your presentations,
sorry.
both of you. I just have a question. So since there was a hiatus in spraying in 2025, so there was only spraying in 2024, would the absence of spraying for 12 months, one would assume that you would see an uptick in the population of spongy moth if they are present in our population, although Dr. Moore has said that they're a very rare and innocuous species. So I'm just wondering, given that there wasn't any spraying, surely somebody would have seen them or identified at least one.
It's a very logical comment. I agree with you. Given the withholding of trapping results for 2024, it's difficult. I've tried to interpret trends myself. The numbers we're talking that trigger spraying are just handfuls to begin with in each area, not high numbers. So until we receive the specific trapping results to see was there a change. But Salt Spring Island managed to stop the spraying a number of years ago, and there was not an increase for many years following the stopping of that spray. And in Norway, as I mentioned, which has a similar climate to here, the moths have never taken off unchecked. And like Dr. Moore mentioned, we've never had a defoliation event in BC on record. So I guess we'll see, and it will be interesting to look at their results and compare those with local naturalists as well.
And then through the chair,
Could I also comment on that? The question is, of course, why are they spraying in the first place for almost 40 years now? And I think the fear is that they get established, but there's no sign that they get established here. They are established somewhere in the east, in Ontario and further east. And I think the pictures that they show are all pictures taken from the east somewhere. But what apparently is happening is that the Americans refuse to import British Columbia Christmas trees and lumber unless they are sure that there are no spongy moths imported along. And I think it's a purely political game that is being played here.
The other thing we should probably have mentioned, and I don't think either of us did, is there are non-toxic alternatives to trap any if we do find them. They can be manually removed or mass trapped, which is something the government has done in the past successfully. Also, the egg masses can be killed with things like ice water, which I personally would be comfortable with being exposed to. So.
Thank you, Mayor Little. Sorry, before.
And the second question that I had when you were talking about the toluene in one of the reviews that you mentioned, I didn't quite catch it. It was the toluene and that the alcohol or the ethanol, was that used as an adjuvant to carry the actual pesticide, or are you referring to another spray? Thank you.
It's so wonderful that you're actually paying attention. I'm excited. Yes, it's because we are not given the specific ingredients. The air sampling study after found it, yes, as an additive with the bacteria. The 86% of undisclosed portion of 4A48B would be, and there's a long list of volatile organic compounds. I just listed some that might sort of ring a bell in our ears. So yes, part of what's being sprayed.
Councillor Shukin.
Through you, Councillor Rapp. Dr. Moore and Dr. Tynan, thank you very much for your work and your focus on this. Really, basic question. Is there any other type of spraying for insects that goes on similar to what spraying for spongy moth is when it does happen?
Really good question. Not urban aerial spraying most commonly. There are some other insects which you can find on the Government of BC website that this year they sprayed over some areas on the mainland using 4A48B for a different insect. I'd have to double check which one it was. They do have a list of insects that they watch for. But this is the one that's been annual since the 70s over cities. Yeah, for the moth.
Well, I think that's the main point. It shouldn't be done over cities. It is a different thing if there are square kilometers of crops which are in danger.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? Thank you very much for your presentation. It was very informative. I'm sure we'd all heard of, gypsy moths or spongy moths, but never really thought about all the damage that the spraying could do. So thank you. Okay, our second presentation tonight is from the Metchosin Arts and Cultural Center Association.
Good evening. Boy, you're gonna have to switch gears here. You're gonna have to change your, this is a whole new topic. That was very interesting. Good evening, Betty Hildreth, speaking to you as Vice President of the Metchosin Arts and Cultural Center Association. I'm sorry if I'm a bit raspy tonight, but this is my job and I'm going to speak anyway. So I will start our short presentation by introducing the current board from our most recent, newest members to the more familiar names. Directors, as I call your names, please stand and stay standing during the introduction, okay? We are pleased to have these dedicated volunteers on the MACCA board. Gwen, Nolan, I think they're all clustered over there, yeah. Jessica Vinot, Charmaine Welch, Gail Nash, and Chris Vandewater. As well as there's a very active member at large, Wendy Chen. But Wendy's not here tonight. Thank you all for your enthusiasm and your willingness. These individuals, each in their own way, bring a facet of genuine Metchosin culture to our community. And they are very, very good at running an association. Council, you may recall from last year that we had MACCA's studio tenants introduce themselves and make brief comments. It proved to be very positive and well received. This year, in the interest of time, we will shorten our presentation slightly. You all have a printed copy of the 2025 President's Report from the AGM in July. So there's no need to repeat that document at this time. But if you have any questions, we'll certainly be here to answer and give more information. Tonight, Chris will bring the official message up to date. Lots has happened since July.
During the talk, a slideshow will be playing in the background. These are images of some of the artwork which we have presented free to the public in the Point of View hallway gallery over the past year. Keep in mind that each image represents part of a full-blown curated exhibition. Jay, can you see these? Can you see these slides? Okay, good. So with no further ado, I will now turn over to a volunteer that everyone is very familiar with, our president, MACCA president, Chris Vandewater. Come on, Chris, get up here.
Thanks, Betty. I'm Chris Vandewater, president of Metchosin Arts and Cultural Center Association. And please avail yourself of the wonderful slideshow. It's very calming. You don't have to all watch me. I didn't write a speech for this year. The other 3 or 4 years, I wrote some rah speeches. But this year, I'm just going to wing it, because I tried to write a speech, but I felt it was too confining. So I'm just going to speak till you guys tell me to get lost. So what's culture anyways? What is culture? As a representative of a cultural association, I have to think about this. So I came to the conclusion that it's really hard to describe our culture here at Metchosin, because we're inside the culture and it's hard to see. It's easy for us to visualize a culture in Japan or Europe. I mean, automatically visions come to mind of all the other cultures, even Port Angeles. So I think it's akin to what's the hardest person you ever had to try to know question. So it's yourself. You might think you know yourself really, really well. Most people think they know themselves really well, but other people think, they might think something completely different. They might think, oh, that's not the way it is. I saw an interview from David Foster a couple of nights ago, and somehow the interviewer got him on to David Foster's personality. And he said, "Yeah, I know I'm a bit arrogant, and why not? Everybody knows David Foster. He's got a perfect pitch, and he's one of my heroes." But so he said, and I was watching some of my early videos from the studio, probably when he was doing Hill Street Blues or something, and I said, but I was just astounded by the amount of arrogance and cockiness that I showed. So there you go. See, he lived within himself. He didn't realize that he was like that. And I think it's the same with our cultural association, that it's hard to describe. But all of us contribute to the culture of Metchosin. And everybody, the culture is everywhere. So that's what we do. We try to embody the culture by having public events like the Christmas market and festivals and other things to help along the culture of Metchosin. So that part's okay. I want to talk a little bit about our lease, which is ending at the end of the year. And we just are finishing, I believe, a 4 or 5 year lease. We've had great terms where we paid, I think, $10,000 or $12,000 a year in carrying costs. So I personally was expecting an increase, but the district came to us and I was quite surprised because they're talking an increase of around $50,000 a year plus what we're already paying, which we'd have to close the doors. We can't do that. On the bright side, we've been in some discussions, and so we're hoping that we can bring it down to where the tenants can afford an increase. There's been some good advice from our CAO that we can follow, and hopefully we'll bring it to a conclusion where it's not going to break the bank for the tenants. It's important to have a cultural association at this point in time for Metchosin. I was here in the 50s. I went to school in the very same building for 4 years. And back then it was all working class people. It was everybody was young and working. And there was no thought to any sort of culture. We were all scratching for a living. I was a kid, but all our parents were. But now it's completely different. Now we're a suburb of Victoria. I know we're cloaking ourselves in being rural and we're a farming community, but you know, we're affluent. All our roads are paved right to the very last square inch. What does that tell you? So we're a kind of a rural community, I guess, but we don't have any debt, and so as a result, our taxes are quite low. And now all the professionals are moving out here. There's lots of professionals out here. It's a very affluent community. And so I think it's, we've had the Arts and Cultural Center there for about, well, since 2010 at least. And I think it's important at this time in Metchosin's history to have a Arts and Cultural Center. If you've been watching all the pictures on the rotating display up there, we've helped so many people. In the last 3 or 4 years, our association has gained regional recognition where people come out here from town and we're upheld as a model that other associations can follow. Me and the rest of the board, we work really hard at this. I would venture to say that we put in more volunteer hours than all of your other associations put together. I think that altogether we put in at least 2,000 hours a year in volunteer hours. So that's, I guess, you know, it's volunteer, but should count for something, I guess. And so I'm beseeching the mayor and council to change their mindset and to come to us with a degree of understanding because we are under duress. And so our Christmas market, we're having one this year. And I've got a whole bunch of like 1x2 yellow cedars of various lengths. So I'm going to make a nice trellis, a series of trellises, and hook them together with 1x2s and put lights on them. So that this year, for the first time, people are going to be able to find the gym without asking all the vendors that are outside, where's the gym? Is this it? What's going on here? So I'm going to do that. That's more volunteer time, but I think it's going to be very successful in attracting the hordes that come to our Christmas markets to the gym. So we just missed it. We have a hanging right now in the gallery of a 750-year-old ink rendering from a stump from the Walbrand Valley. It's hanging there as artwork, and if you have a chance to go and see it, it's really a powerful piece. We're apolitical in MACCA, so we're not involving any politics with this particular piece, but it stands on its own as an art piece very strongly, and we're proud to have it. And so what else is I going to run by you? Anything I'm missing? Board? Let's see, there was, oh wait, I had some notes. There, I can barely read them. Oh, here's a little thing. When a bird is alive, it feeds on ants. When the bird dies, the ants feed on the bird. The simple truth shown us how life and circumstances keep changing. No one stays on top forever, and no one stays on the bottom forever. And yeah, Stacy, my daughter, she rented the gym last year from Stephanie was in charge with her phone and stuff, and it went very smoothly. Stephanie, she's always down there. And but this year, Stacy rented the gym again through the online calendar, but there's a little requirement this time. Anybody that rents a gym has to have insurance. So Stacy, she thought, I'd better phone up and see what kind of insurance. So she phones the district up, and the answer was, I'm sorry, we're not allowed to give out any information. It's just too funny. So another rumor I heard is that this down here down here is that you've dubbed the complex over there the White Elephant, and I was thinking, well, that'd be a great name for the center, the White Elephant. It's iconic, it's catchy, it's could mean a lot. It's a good name. You should make a motion tonight and just do it. So does that give you an idea where we're coming from and where we're trying? Oh, there was one more thing. It's about that obstruction in the drain pipe now. Every winter when there's really heavy rains, day or night, I have to be there to monitor the drain that's outside the back door of Debbie Bernier's front studio there. And I watch the water come up and I watch the rain come down. Then I go home for a couple of hours, come back and see if the water's coming up. There's a little bit of water that gets past the obstruction, but in great rains, I have to get my little pump and put it in the sump and drain it away and monitor. And while I'm monitoring, where's Mayor and Council? Where's the public works? Why am I doing this as a volunteer? I don't know. I'm tired of doing it. Am I supposed to charge I think, well, maybe I have to charge, to come and monitor it. And I don't know. I don't want to do it anymore. How about getting the obstruction cleared out of the drain? I've only put it in my speech for the last 3 and 4 years. I think it's time to move on this. And this is the kind of understanding that I'm hoping that Mayor and Council can extend to us. So thank you very much for your time. And I'm sure that we'll have a beneficial relationship for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee, are there any questions for the MACCA? Councilor Shukin.
I wonder if Ms. Hildreth might join, and you, Chris, too. Just sorry. Yeah. Just 2 questions, if I could. Mr. Vanderwater, thanks very much, and thanks for your dedication. Quick overview of your thoughts about the state of the building on the MACCA side. How is the building?
The building's falling apart. It's it's over 125 years old, and that's all the siding. We painted the siding this year on the front. Yeah. So it's basically paint that's holding the siding on. I nailed a bunch. It was nailed with finishing nails, so I just used common nails to push the siding back in. It'll be okay for a while longer, but these things need attention. Eventually, it's like a homeowner has to maintain their place. I was going to say something else too. This might be important down the road. We have, as MACCA, we're so busy that we've had to hire a part-time administrator. And I know that we've forwarded this concept to the district where we could perhaps save the district some money and share an administrator that could be on site, either part-time or full-time. I can't see running that center remotely. I mean, the community house has had an administrative manager there since day one, and right on site, and they've only got one room. We've got 12 rooms plus to deal with over there. It just can't be done remotely. I'm telling you this because it's true. And I think that MACCA, although we don't want to get involved too much, I think we can assist with managerial capacity, helping you out, and so that it may be on a contractual basis where it's not going to cost the district any money.
Chris, you're talking about the whole plant, right?
Yeah.
The whole facility?
Yes. So some to consider anyways.
Okay, thank you very much. I do want to apologize about the obstruction in the, we've heard about it for many years. I brought it back to staff. I'm going to remind them again. From the discussion I heard, it might be a little bit more difficult than just the snake being sent through, but I'm going to put them again.
Oh, it has to be dug up.
Okay, yeah, that's what I heard as well. So there has been past discussion about renaming the big building known as the school. And I have to say that for me, this comes up again and again because the school doesn't describe really anything. Is it the new school, the old school? Is it the school, the historic school? I've actually seen on 2 occasions now people describing going to someplace at the school, but having to identify it is next to mile zero.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess I wanted to get your opinion, not a name, but is the name a change something you would support or would see valuable?
Is it what?
Would you support a name change, and would you see it as valuable to marketing the school? Or
Well, since we don't have a name, it wouldn't really be a name change, but a name would be good. I'm just presented the White Elephant. I think it's a good name, but you know, you might want an indigenous name. I hope it's a normal name, but might not be. But a name is important.
Thanks. Any other questions? Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you. Thank you for the slideshow and the information, especially in the package. A couple of things. So last year there wasn't a maker's market, and you make quite a bit of money at this. I think last year was because the district was encouraging fees to be charged for tables. Is that correct? And will that be this year?
Well, no, there was a maker's market last year.
Oh, okay.
But we asked to have the rental fees waived because we weren't prepared. We didn't know at the time what exactly the charges were going to be. This year we're going to do a 1-day market, and that's based on the fact that we know exactly what the charges are going to be. It's been decided and we've embraced that. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's good to know. So through the chair, I have just 2 more things. With the Festivus, the location has been out in the front in the parking lot. And when I was reading through something in our package tonight, that Councillor Shukin actually was helping with parking, I think maybe on the grassy field, is that correct? I had mentioned it once before to one of the board members at the grounds group meeting about having maybe the band or presentations over in the tarmac area. There is a plug-in, I've discovered that on the weekend, in the cage area for amplifiers and stuff like that, so people could actually be in the grassy area, so therefore you would actually have appropriate designated parking. Is that something that you would consider as a more you would draw a lot more people? They could put their blankets out and everything on the grass, that sort of thing, and tents and whatnot.
Actually, that's what we had planned originally to do this year. And we were going to do it in conjunction with the Health and Communities Advisory Select Committee. But things didn't work out too well. There was misunderstanding, and so we had to peel it back. it's a lot bigger it's a bigger venue, and it's going to be a bigger project, a bigger event. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, no parking.
Shelley, you're talking about having the main entryway go in by the caged area. Is that what you're referring to?
No, I'm just talking like, I think you had your stage like out the front of the MACCA building, which is the parking
stage,
area.
for
Yeah, so just
Festivus?
moving it over to the other side where the tarmac is, where the classrooms are, so that you can actually face the field where people could actually, it's, you know, it's fenced in, it's safer for people to mull about if you had tents and you have your music, and then the parking be for parking, like the actual designated area for parking. As
we
opposed
actually
to
try to keep Festivus down to a dull roar,
Mhm.
and just to have it in a small area where it's cozy.
Mhm.
So the music that we choose isn't that loud, and it fits in good with the other attractions that we have.
Yeah, I'm just more concerned because we keep hearing there's issues with parking. The fact that it's up high enough, and then there's sort of a grassy knoll that goes down to the field, is like a natural stage. Anyways, so good to know there's been some thought on that. It's my last thing, and Betty, you'll remember this many years ago, over 25 years ago. We used to have MACCA in Metchosin, and world renowned, I believe, or it was very, just what Chris was saying about attracting people from afar and this recognition, acknowledgement we're getting for our arts. I know MACCA is still out there in the east or somewhere, it's not in Metchosin, but at the time we also did something called MASC. It was Metchosin Art School for Kids. West Shore Parks and Recreation is interested. So if it's something that MACCA is interested in doing, Bobby Neal, who was involved then, is still she'd be a person to connect with. They would need at least 6 months advance notice to put it out in their activity guides, and that is something for us to consider as well as an activity through there, if that's falls within your purview.
Sure. That's interesting. And also, last month we got an email from MACCA. They're looking for office space. They're somewhere downtown right now, and they want to come back out to Metchosin. Metchosin International Summer School of the Arts, right? They're at Pearson, but is their office at, yeah. They are, right? So they have been in touch, which is a good sign. That's right. That's right. So we are still in touch with MACCA, and that's a good thing, yeah.
Great, thank you very much.
Any more questions, or Councillor Gray?
Just to say thanks for all the work you guys do over there. It's pretty impressive. I was wondering about two issues. Well, one, we can ask the CEO for an update on the question of the lease arrangements and learn what's going on. But the other thing was the mention in the documents about a platform lift, and maybe that's a question for Councillor Shukin. Is that something that we've been discussing with MACCA?
We canceled our stairlift offer because of our financial uncertainty going forward here until we find out where we stand.
Thank you.
Great, thanks very much. Appreciate all your efforts.
I wonder if ArtPod is going to be one of the people next in line. I wonder if we could follow on.
I don't think that's on the agenda. Was that part of your? Oh, is that part of your?
It's part of the public participation. It seems that our understanding is that there are the charitable organizations, especially, and there was participate for us in this one as people in the 45-minute discussion. So what we are suggesting is this makes sense that we follow MACCA's presentation so that we can leave the majority of the time for the public response being about the charitable organizations.
Well, we are just opening public participation now, so if you'd like to get up, you're certainly welcome. We have, and there you are.
That's what I was doing.
Yeah. So you have 4 minutes. We do have the little lights on there, so there's a warming. Thank you. And we just need your name and address, please.
I'm Mehmet Burnett, and we have a place out in Woodley Gill, 1190 Woodley Gill in Metchosin. I've been part of the Metchosin community for over 24 years. I'm the current president of Metchosin Art Pod. I wanted to take a moment to tell you just a bit about us, because I think there's a bit of confusion. For the past 6 years, Metchosin Art Pod, housed in the Metchosin Arts and Culture Center, has been the heart of the visual arts in Metchosin. What began in 2019 with a handful of members is now a nonprofit collective of 14 working artists who together donate a total of more than 5,100 volunteer hours every year to keep Metchosin Art Pod alive. We have no paid staff, no guaranteed municipal funding, and ArtPod has still built a vibrant hub that draws over 5,500 physical gallery visitors every year. We host 6 juried and curated exhibitions every year. We offer weekly drop-in studios, often in the upstairs studio space in MACCA, workshops, usually monthly, and youth programs. And we also pay local artists as juror, facilitators, and exhibitors. In 2024 alone, we had 210 artists submitting work to our juried shows, and we exhibited 228 works, and 44 artists were paid through ArtPod for their services. Our reach is extended beyond that because we participate in community events such as Canada Day, which is Metchosin Community, which is Festivus, sorry, and Metchosin Community Day, and the recent Harvest Festival last Saturday. We run programs in conjunction with Rocky Point Bird Observatory and the Metchosin Foundation, as well as providing art education and information to the community through our social media posts, our free ArtPod online newsletter, and regular ads and submissions to the Muse. We do all of this on a shoestring. Our annual budget is $31,000. It's funded by our own artist member dues, commissions, art commissions, and modest project grants. Every cent that we raise goes back towards the gallery rental, gallery renovations and improvements, and our own community programming. In comparison, neighboring municipalities provide rent-free buildings and operating budgets for their art groups. ArtPod survives and thrives because of our volunteer artist members' commitment, and we have terrific community support. On the fact, why do we matter? Why do arts matter, I guess? We feel strongly that arts are not optional. They are as essential to community health as parks, recreation, and libraries. In fact, the West Shore feasibility study in 2022 identified a critical shortage of arts and culture opportunities in our region. ArtPod continues to address this gap at no cost to the district beyond reduced rent in the Metchosin Arts and Culture Center. So you may be wondering why we're here. Well, lease changes could existentially jeopardize our ability to operate, and the current confusion and uncertainty is hindering and distracting us from pursuing interesting and novel programming and reaching people with our art forward message. Does Metchosin really want to lose the only fully functioning nonprofit artist-run gallery they have? We are a unique cultural space that brings people together across generations, backgrounds, and abilities. And we urge Council to recognize ArtPod as a source of pride for Metchosin and to support our continued tenancy. In partnership, ArtPod can remain a thriving place where residents and visitors can come to learn, create, and connect through art, strengthening the fabric of our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, is that my turn? Okay. I'm Irene Ives, and I'm the Secretary Treasurer of ArtPod. I live in Colwood, but I spend half of my life in Metchosin, as I am one of the people that contribute to those 5,000 volunteer hours a year. I just need to, I'm a little confused. We were encouraged to come out tonight because of the lease agreement concerns and the costs involved. I'm hearing that there's some agreement made, but I just need, as Secretary and Treasurer, to say that we pay $12,000 a year and 5,000 hours of volunteer work to operate something that is one of the most public forward-facing endeavors in Metchosin. We can't afford to subsidize anymore what's going on. We pay over $8,000 in rent, and we pay over $3,000 a year to use the DIY room studio upstairs for community programming. And we will not be able to stay and exist in Metchosin if we have to continue to supplement what we do for Metchosin and the West Shore region. So I really encourage you. I know economy of scale, you folks are in a terrible position and you're having discussions about who deserves the next kidney machine. I understand that, but we're tired of making arts and culture be the icing on the cake. We think we are the center of the cake, and we're tired of having to advocate to be allowed to do what we pay to do and we volunteer to do out of the passion that we bring to the arts and to this community. So we are really asking that whatever conversations you're having with between MACCA and the CFO and the folks at this table, that you really look at the added value of what people that don't even reside in Metchosin are bringing to your community. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Ed Bennington. I live at 4860 Tulane Road. I am a member of St. Mary's Parish Council, a member of the Monday morning work group that works at the Heritage Church every Monday throughout the year, even holidays. Usually there's some of us there. I'm here because of the presumptive tax exemption issue that has been raised. I respectfully submit that the council has not been forthcoming and transparent enough to have public input. As one of the organizations affected, we only found out at the 11th hour what the effect will be on us. I have tried to speak to the mayor, phoned her 4 times and left messages, but did not get a return call. I wish to have a meeting to clear up some misinformation that was in the information package that I was made aware of. The misinformation refers to the information that was given about the financial viability of the church. The things has us listed as the Anglican Diocese of BC. The Anglican Diocese owns the property. By the way, they are not financially very well off neither, but they do not carry the expenses of the properties in Metchosin. The parish of St. Mary's does that, so that we have been going year to year on a skeleton sort of financial track, and the effects of even the reduced tax to 15,000 is the most likelihood will render us insolvent within a year or two, which is vastly concerning to us. We would do everything not to have that happen. However, it doesn't look very hopeful given the kind of what seems to be the attitude coming from the council towards all of the groups that are affected. I would just like to make 3 quick points. That St. Mary's Church, which is maintained and kept operational by the parish, is an emergency evacuation center for the District of Metchosin. The emergency social services will set up there in the case of emergency and operate out of that location. For the past 35 years, the parish of St. Mary's has provided the financial support and secured significant investments for St. Mary's Heritage Church. The Anglican Foundation provided $15,000 grant, which allowed us to put a skim seal under the church to prevent the further erosion by powder post beetle. And there's a ramp been built, and a lot of volunteer labor from the community, and the church has been involved in that. The other significant fact is that over 70 years, the parish of St. Mary's provided the preschool society access to the hall until it was no longer habitable at no rental cost, essentially, a $1 a year credit, and supported that group. So we feel very burdened by what is coming down the thing, and it is quite likely that the 153 history of St. Mary's Church could end. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Little?
Mr. Bennington, the CAO and I have an appointment next Thursday or Friday with Mr. Brendan Nielsen with the Archdiocese, so that he reached out to us, and we've got that appointment next week.
Patty Whitehouse, Rocky Point Road. Very quickly, I want to express my support for the recommendations from Stan Orchard regarding bullfrog control in Metchosin. Bullfrog eradication is impossible in this area without a concerted, coordinated effort from all municipalities where bullfrogs exist, which is most of them. However, Stan Orchard's efforts, funded by Metchosin, are being effective in controlling the bullfrogs in Metchosin. They are voracious predators that, if not controlled, can wipe out a lot of the amphibians and birds and so on in small lakes and ponds, and add disease elements to the water and all the rest of it. So just do what Stan says, and we'll continue keeping those voracious predators under control. Oh, and they have no native predators here. They are occasionally predated upon by, I've seen snakes and something else, but they don't have any natural control predators here.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm sorry to kind of jump the line. Me and my husband are going to go because our children are here, and it's past their bedtime. But both my husband and I feel this is really important that we're both here to speak. My name is Judy Roper, 661 Pears Road. I am very upset with the recent tax decisions, and even more upset after listening to the beginning of this meeting. Many of us pay for services we may never personally use: the library, recreation centers, schools, and even the 911 system. We all pay because we recognize that these services make our community safer, stronger, and more connected. Permissive tax exemptions do the same thing. They are strategic partnerships. Through them, the nonprofits deliver essential community services at the fraction of cost the municipality would pay to do the same work. I'm a member of St. Mary's, so I'll speak directly to that. Our parking lot serves as a designated park and ride and overflow parking for Whitty's Lagoon, Westmont, the Souk School District, and public events such as Metchosin Days. It also provides space for the film companies, which is good for the local economy. Countless of Metchosin youth have learned to drive in the parking lot, which we provide for free. And I just think about my dad, who's here, when I was a teenager, he taught me to, drive there and also helped me with my class 4 license in that parking lot. The church's green space is being entered into the Bilston Creek Conservation Corridor, protecting local habitat and supporting Metchosin's environmental goals. St. Mary's is a designated emergency evacuation shelter and emergency social services center for the district. It has been used by the district in this capacity. St. Mary's is a gathering place that builds relationships across generations, accessible to anybody in the community, where children and families can spend time together in a safe, educational, and caring environment. If St. Mary's were forced to close, Who would take on those roles and at what cost? That is the other set of calculations that has not been done. The municipality would face new expenses, securing a replacement emergency shelter, maintaining a conservation area, managing increased roadside wear from lost parking, and finding ways to provide the safe community and youth programs we currently offer. On top of that, many local groups rely on St. Mary's venue for their programs. Without it, they would struggle to find space, and our community would lose yet another affordable place. The projected $14,943 tax increase for St. Mary's will put us in financial hardship that could mean the difference between survival and closure. And just kind of reiterating off of what Ed was saying, there was a misunderstanding that we'd actually be able to pay for this. We cannot. And that's true for many of our community's nonprofits, groups that support youth, seniors, animals, the environment, and local families, and even hearing from the Art Pod, art stuff as well. This decision, well-intentioned, is incredibly short-sighted and unfair. Fairness must include collaboration. Nonprofits and the community members deserve to be part of this conversation before decisions on this scale take effect. St. Mary's was not part of this decision. So tonight, I ask council to change their policy to at least give us another year. There is still time for you to do that, I believe, after all of the legal things are looked at. This would give nonprofits time to plan, adapt, and explore sustainable solutions together with the municipality. Metchosin has always been known for its cooperation. I urge council to protect that spirit and to view our nonprofits not as costs, but as partners that multiply the value of every tax dollar. Thank you for your time.
There we go. Okay. I'm sure you heard me anyway. And I'm here to address the council that is so well known as a council of 3-2 votes. Congratulations for finding a way to get to a unanimous vote this time by finding an issue where you can remove 2 of the councillors so they can't take part. You may have already gathered that I'm vehemently opposed to the decision to proceed with removal of tax exemptions from our nonprofits. The CFO's opinion that these organizations will have no difficulty paying these additional funds is fundamentally wrong. I'd like to know how you went about communicating with these organizations to ensure they would be able to shoulder this burden. When pondering this issue of the council's decision, I can't help but wonder at the long-term goals. By levying additional unaffordable costs on nonprofits who have no tangible additional means to pay, the inevitable result in some cases will be that these organizations are going to go out of business. What happens then? These nonprofits in many cases own large acreages, and those will go up for sale. The land will be bought and developed, which is directly in line with the Chief Financial Officer's comments when discussing the concept of taking on debt to build a new fire hall. To pay debt, he recommended adding population density. It seems possible that your decision to remove tax exemptions could be an attempt to drive future development with the aim of increasing future tax revenues in Metchosin. All 5 of you sat in front of Metchosin during the election and assured the residents that you would maintain a rural community and fight against developing this absolutely beautiful municipality. If this densification happens, you won't get to throw your hands up and say that you had nothing to do with this. I hope I'm wrong, but if I'm not, we, the residents, will know who broke their promises by allowing this to happen. I challenge you, prove me wrong.
Thank you.
Jane Hammond, Rocky Point Road, also a member of St. Mary's. It's hard to follow those few amazing messages. I'm here to actually just read a letter that comes from the Reverend Lynn Mills from St. Mary's. She unfortunately is ill tonight. So, dear Mayor, Little, and Council, and I apologize, there's a lot of repetition in what you've already heard, but I think I should read it anyway. From Lynn. I am writing on behalf of the Parish Council of St. Mary's Anglican Church in Metchosin to express our deep concern about Council's proposal not to renew the permissive tax exemption for non-profit organizations in the 2026 tax year. This change, if not reconsidered, will have severe financial implications for St. Mary's. Got to read it on this. Eliminating our church's exemption would impose an unsustainable financial burden of $14,943, according to the calculation, or even more, up to the $33,529 if the grant is not coming through. This would be annually and jeopardizes St. Mary's future. St. Mary's is maintained entirely by its local congregation and receives no operational funding from the Anglican Church of Canada. Thus, any new tax obligation would fall solely on the small Metchosin parish community. St. Mary's has been an integral part of Metchosin since 1873. Beyond its religious role, St. Mary's provides invaluable services to the community. Our facilities serve as an emergency component for the district during crises, and our parking lot is offered as a public park and ride. We also steward Metchosin's historic cemetery and provide space for numerous community events and local groups. We are partnering with the Metchosin Foundation in creating a guided walk in the Bilston Creek Conservation Corridor. These contributions form part of the essential rural infrastructure that makes Metchosin special. Removing the exemption support undermines the infrastructure and contradicts Metchosin's long-standing values. In light of these concerns, we respectfully and urgently request the Council reconsider its decision. We ask that Council direct staff to bring forward the 2026 PTE bylaw for readings and call a special Council meeting before October 31st to adopt it. Thank you very much for your attention in this urgent matter, and we remain hopeful for a resolution that ensures St. Mary can continue to serve the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's Anna Lovering, 3962 Olympic View Drive. And I'm just sort of speaking off the same thing, just here to oppose the tax exemption that's going through. I have minor. I've been using these services a lot. One of the big ones that I've used is Camp Thunderbird for my children. I've reached out to them specifically, and I'm just going to read what they had to say on it. Because all of these ones, I think it's the same thing. It's the same story, even if within council, I think it's been talked about. It's obvious that within the community, it's been a shock to everybody, even to the local community. There's a lot of concern about it just very recently. So I think there needs to be an extension on the talks of this before it goes through to have a lot of clarity and let people be more involved in the discussion. So from Camp Thunderbird, when I reached out to them, they were very concerned about it. And just part of it, they said, it will definitely be very much harder for us to keep the center open. We run off a loss every year as it is. The exact amount of tax to be paid in 2026 is undetermined, but the Y will be paying more than other charities due to the size of our property. So they already run, and I knew that before, they run in a deficit anyhow, so any increase, I don't know how they would do it, but it would make sense that that cost goes back onto the people using the services. So the children using those camps, they're the ones who are going to be affected. My children did get to go to those camps. I come from a middle-class family. It was a real stretch for us to let them do that. So any increase, it's just going to wipe a whole demographic that allows children to use those services. That's the trickle-down effect of this. And I think a lot of that hasn't been considered, obviously, for the other organizations as well. So to just think how it's going to affect the community, the SPCA, if they don't have the funding with Wild Ark, they don't have the hours, they don't have the people, it's the animals that are suffering. The Metchosin Hall, I don't know if Yvonne Becker is here. I'm just going to read a little post that she put. But the president of the Metchosin Hall Society will be deeply impacted. We offer deep discounts for youth group rentals and an affordable place for jazzercise, badminton, birthdays, funerals, weddings, etc. If we raise our rates, we would potentially lose some group activities and further affect our income. We operate as a nonprofit for the community's benefit. Where do we make up this shortfall without impacting renters, the users of this community facility, our community? It definitely is a ripple effect not being considered. I think that's all. Sorry about my nerves. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Gary Lamb, 860 Hackmore Drive. What I wanted to raise to council tonight is the revamped traffic lines on Duke Road East. I'm not sure if any of the council members have driven that, but I drove it 3 times the other day just to make sure I had a true appreciation of what potentially has, as I see it, developed an unforeseen risk as a result of painting the lines to form a walking lane. If you're driving along Duke Road East and you hit the intersection of Albert Head Road, there's a rise there. And when you go over that rise, you hit the walking lane. You need to make an immediate veer to the left. Otherwise, you're going to drive straight into that walking lane. Concern I have is, if at night or somebody is, speeding and they come over that rise and somebody happens to be at the top in that walking lane, unfortunately, I think it could be catastrophic. So I'm not sure who designed that, but it appears that it was not laid out properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shukin.
Thank you, Councillor Epp. I have been made aware of that, what Mr. Lamb is talking about around Albert Head Road. I was in touch with our public works supervisor today, and he is going to be back in touch with the line painting company, and they are going to realign the walking shoulder. So it is known and it is in the system right now. So
okay, great. Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else for public participation? Might be good news.
I'll keep it short. My name is Ray Zimmerman. I'm a director of C2C Greenbelt Society, and we have large support in your community. I live in Victoria. The arts group, with their 5,000 hours of volunteer work, brought to mind another example. From 88 to 94, it took 6 years of research to take the Greater Victoria Water District to court to stop the commercial logging operation in the Greater Victoria Water District. The BC Supreme Court voted in our favor. That 6 years of work was all volunteer. Nobody got paid, not even the lawyers. So I would like to point out, how do you measure the economic consequences of such a decision? I'm making this little comment about Camp Thunderbird, because Camp Thunderbird is the hinge that connects the north part of the Greenbelt to the southern part. If Camp Thunderbird decides to develop their lands, that's a break in that greenbelt. That's your backyard. And that the thousands of hours that were expanded on this C2C greenbelt is also, it's difficult to measure. So it seems to me that your challenge is, how do you measure volunteer hours and get that into your spreadsheet so that it actually accounts for something? Because right now it seems like it doesn't count for anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gray?
Yeah, just to council, I had an interesting experience when elected to council. Perhaps one of the first persons that phoned me was Ray Zimmerman. He said, whatever happens, make sure the Camp Thunderbird maintains his tax exemption. I said, there's no way that'll change, Ray. And here we are today.
Okay, is there anyone else for public participation?
You'll have to forgive me. I didn't come with prepared statements, and I've written them tonight as I was sitting here listening, so let's see if I can actually read my own writing. Kiara Kahakawila, Perry Crossroad. The only way residents of Metchosin will benefit from your penalization of not-for-profit organizations by refusing to grant them a permissive tax exemption is if you actually reduce the 2026 tax increase by the same amount you've taken away from these community groups. Some organizations may have more ability to pay than others. These organizations did provide financials as requested to your CFO. They did not have pre-warning that there would be a change in policy. This discussion on policy should have included all of council. If nothing else, Mayor Little, as chair of council, you should have separated the discussion from policy and properties, especially as you knew members of your council would recuse themselves on certain properties to be discussed. There is a way to allow the permissive tax exemption for 2026 to follow through. It will take quick work from staff to facilitate the required statutory requirements, but it is possible at this time. But first, it will take fortitude and humility from Mayor Little and Councillors Epp and Shukin.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Could you come back to the... Thank you. Anyone else?
Afternoon or evening, Darren Brown, Graceland Road. I'd like to echo Gary Lamb's comments about the risk, Duke Road, the increased risk to health and safety on there by the changes that have been made. It's quite concerning. I don't know how much we've spent on, frivolous amenities like this that have to be reconsidered and redone after a rushed implementation. Councillor Epp, I heard you say it's ironic that people are asking to be responsible with our dollars. What I've heard from every person that's ever come up here is that we were asking you guys to be responsible with our precious tax dollars and be meaningful with implementation of certain things with them. Tearing apart the fabric of the community is not a great innovative savings. It's quite concerning. So more importantly though, it's hard to go more important than that, but standing up at this podium is not easy. For most residents, it is intimidating. It takes courage to stand here and face the people who make decisions that shape our lives. When council responds with interruptions, procedural ambushes, and shouting people down, it doesn't just silence a voice, it sends a chilling message to anyone else who might speak or might have spoken next. So I think that's unacceptable in a democratic chamber. And I want to address something specific. The word ignorant. That word is not an insult. It doesn't mean stupid or lesser. It simply means that this is the dictionary definition, Councillor Shukin, lacking knowledge or information about a particular subject. right? And we're all ignorant of something or other from time to time. That's fine. It's not a weakness. It's a chance to learn. So when members of council, and I'm speaking directly to you here, Mr. Shukin, respond to that word with hostility or public scolding, it doesn't demonstrate strength. It demonstrates insecurity. Leadership isn't threatened by words like ignorant. Leadership listens, reflects, and grows from there. And leadership, Mayor Little, is not just about the words you speak. It's also about the behavior you allow and enable. When one councillor consistently shuts down people and the chair allows that to happen, that's not strong leadership. So this council has already shown us what happens when leadership doesn't listen. People feel dismissed, they lose faith, and once that trust is broken, it doesn't just apply to one issue, it spreads. So yeah, if you mishandle meaningful community issues, why should anyone trust how you'll handle the fire hall? Trust isn't built on press release or ribbon cutting. It's built right here in a room like this, when ordinary people step up to speak and are treated with dignity. We don't need perfection, right? But we need respect. We need courage, and we need leadership that listens, especially when it's uncomfortable. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anyone else? Oh. There's plenty of time.
Yeah, okay, I hadn't planned on saying anything either because I thought that there would be people that would be wanting to speak more as a first time, but there's just, this is really bothering me, the way you guys are going about this. Every one of those councils, with the exception of this one, understood that there's two columns to the ledger. There's the cost to the taxpayer, and there's the savings to the taxpayer that the charities provide. And there's multitude of studies that show that the savings to the taxpayer far outweigh the cost to the taxpayer. And you've heard it tonight from the arts people, from the church, from all of these other places. You have not calculated at all the other side of the ledger. And that leads to something that Councillor Donaldson alluded to, and that is the regional aspect of this. I spent nearly 25 years as a regional director representing this community, constantly trying to convince the other municipalities that we pull our own weight. And Councillor Shukin, I mean, you're always talking about fairness and equity. Where is the fairness and equity to say, all you other municipalities, yeah, you all got to support all of these charitable organizations, but we don't. We need money, so we're going to not do that. Well, but the rest of you all have to. There's no fairness or equity there. And the other municipalities are going to be, they're going to think a lot less of Metchosin than they do now. And frankly, I find that appalling. And Mayor Little, there is time for you to rectify this. This is on you. You can change this, and protect not only the finances of this community, but also the reputation of this community regionally. Show some leadership.
Thank you. All right, anyone else wish to speak? Are you speaking or leaving? Thank you. Okay, CFO Creek, I'd ask you to come up and give us a few more words on the tax exemption issue.
you, Mayor and Council. So I guess everything about permissive tax exemptions, all that good stuff. Everybody who did apply provided 3 years of financial statements, basically 2024, 2023, 2022. And when I broke down that table showing fiscal need for some and not for others, it was based on their net income from the most recent year that I saw, which was 2024, and then calculating, can they cover the taxes that would be levied, right? So I won't go through all of them. Looks like we'll probably have a report and I'll have a table showing all of them for each different organization. But we'll start at the least, goes to the church. So if they had, so if the church had paid the other taxing authorities in 2025, based on their income from 2024, they would have had a net income of $1,700. So yeah, it's a very tiny amount, but still fit within their budget without requiring any cuts or increased tithes. The highest one comes from the SPCA. So if they had actually paid the other taxing authorities their 2025 portion, they would have had a net income of 6.78 million. So there's a wide gamut here, and that's what we're kind of showing. And will either be on the council meeting for the 27th or November 6th, 3rd, one of those dates. Just showing everybody's where they're sitting. So it wasn't based on feel or anything. I just took their financial statements that they provided. Some of them were audited, some of them were just done QuickBooks, but that's how that was determined whether they had a fiscal need or not, based on everybody still had a positive net income after paying the other taxing authorities. Everybody still had money in their reserves to do whatever with building maintenance or anything like that.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll just move on with our meeting. We start off with the adoption of the minutes of the special committee of the whole meeting of June 5th.
Move adoption.
Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor, are you seconding or are you?
I can second. I had a question.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Gray.
Yeah, it crops up here and in another minutes. On the bottom of page, golly, it's hard to see. Well, the second page of the committee of the whole, at the very bottom. So I guess I had this misunderstanding, but I don't think it's true. It says here, the Fire Hall Steering Committee, the committee's recommendation for new construction. I don't think we've ever seen a recommendation from the Fire Hall Steering Committee on this question. So it's okay that it's in the minutes because maybe that was said, but there's no record of any recommendations from the Fire Hall Steering Committee on the issue of construction. I'll point it out when we come to it later.
All right.
I don't know if we changed it or I don't know what was said. I just saw it there and I thought, oh, there wasn't a
No,
recommendation.
We have to check with her. Ms. Hansen.
We can re-listen to the video and bring them forward again at the next committee of the whole for adoption, if you like.
Thank you.
Or, yeah, okay, whatever the committee would like.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Rapp, I'm having trouble seeing the page here.
Well, yeah, I can't find it either, so I don't know what you're talking
So
about.
it's
Second page of the committee of the whole meeting, Thursday, June 5th. And very, very bottom there. And the wording is the committee's recommendation for new construction.
That was, sorry to interrupt, but through the chair, that was the joint meeting with the Fire Hall Steering Committee.
I'm just wondering if this is really worth staff time to get clarification on that.
It's material
It is,
in that the you'll see it turn up somewhere else as well because I think we're on the impression sort of recommendations have been made, but they haven't been. So it's just a factual question, and it might mislead people in understanding who said what. Okay.
All right, we'll just leave that one with staff then.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'll ask for approval of those minutes. All in favor? Okay, it's passed.
I guess I'll come back for approval another time. I think we heard from Ms. Hanson, they'll come back another time for approval.
Yeah, she obviously can't do it tonight. So. All right, so adoption of the minutes of June 9th, Committee of the Whole.
I'll move adoption.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? And the minutes of the Special Community Planning Committee meeting of June 23rd. Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Mayor Little. All in favor? And the Special Public Works and Protective Services meeting of June 26th. Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Mayor Little. Okay, and then we have a receipt of minutes. We'll do this as a group. There is one note that the September 19th Parks and Trails Advisory Select Committee minutes are actually a repeat of the August 9th minutes. So the staff is repaired that on the website so that their proper minutes are in the proper order. So with that, I'll just ask for a receipt, motion to receive the Advisory Select Committee minutes of all the above or below. Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor?
I'll just mention, you'll see the second there on the Environment Committee, page 47, in the middle of the page. And it was just reporting out what the smaller subcommittee of the Fire Health Steering Committee had recommended the endorsed option, but that's not. So we can deal with that when they
meets
again.
Did cover that.
It's page 47, but I can speak to the committee about that when we meet.
All right, so the business arising, perhaps I can go to Councillor Shukin on this. The recommendation from the Parks and Trails Advisory Select Committee about donations to the community parks policy.
For sure. Thank you very much, Councillor App. So in the past, we have had guidelines that have circulated about how to manage donations of park benches typically and picnic tables. And these are typically on municipal grounds or on roadside trails, other locations as well. So what we have here now is an attempt to create a policy and give us clarity on those donations. And really quickly, I'll just walk you through what has been proposed. So I'm taking this on because it originated with PTASC, who developed the guidelines, and then we were working with staff to develop a policy. And I would like to request support for the policy tonight. So first of all, covers amenities like park benches and picnic tables, but there might also be some other items that are tied to memorializing the loved ones, so it remains open that way. The purpose and guidelines are self-explanatory, but mainly to clarify where a bench or a table goes, it is up to council in terms of district lands, that the donation period is 10 years, that can be renewed, but there is a time period around it as well. And then again, guidelines around what happens when the donation item is installed. So the next section clarifies matters around price. So our previous guidelines were really specific around price and actually named a cost, but that cost has since gone way up. And so what the point is right now is it clarifies that the price of the item includes installation materials and coating, as well as a maintenance fee of 20%. So again, these things have gone up over time. I think the last bench that we talked about was about $5,000. And again, very graciously donated, and I think there are 2 more that we have in the works. So again, roll of deposit, and next one is just clarification of the donation procedures. There, it outlines the role of the trails coordinator and the support we get from staff, and then of course the role of council in approving. And final section is about, again, just clarifying that not every trail is available for a park bench, no matter how, and we've had a number of occasions where people have come saying that, you know, my elderly parent used to walk in this trail every day, or you know, we had one where the trail was named after their forefathers or foremothers or whatever. And we just don't have room. So again, it's being very clear about that the district has the approving authority over this. So if there, let me know if there are questions or thoughts.
Councillor Donaldson?
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate the work's gone into this, and I'm most appreciative that you've gotten rid of the matrix with costs, because it's going to change. So this may last a lot longer. I just was also like the idea, and I had read it in the minutes of one of your PTAS meetings, reference to if the family or the person is no longer wanting to maintain the said bench or whatever it is, table, that they have an option of taking the plaque back, which I thought was quite remarkable. Just a question, has there been any vandalisms to plaques being taken off of these monuments?
Not that I've heard of.
Okay.
No.
I only asked because the equestrians experienced that. There was 2 plaques and they were both ripped off. And so got me thinking when I read this, it's great for them to be able to take that memento with them, or to come back and see it all the time. So just next time I'll have to look how well fastened they are.
Yeah.
And maybe that was the thing, but we didn't see any burst screws or whatever it was fastened. The whole thing was gone. So yeah, good to know. Thank you very much.
Thanks. And no, great observation. And that was a late addition that PTAS had brought back to council as well. So, yeah.
Mary Little?
Yeah, thank you through the chair. Thank you for this and the work that's been taken towards this policy. I would only suggest that at the beginning, under donations to community parks, where it says groups to contribute gifts, I would put in brackets park benches and picnic tables, just so people are aware of what kind of gifts are acceptable. And my second comment is, when the trees were illegally cut at Blaney Trail, there was a number of citizens who wanted to donate trees or supply money for a tree to be bought for dedication to a certain individual. And so I think that since we are running out of spaces for the park benches, I think that would be a great gift to the district, in memory of somebody. And of course, we wouldn't want to put a plaque on the tree, but there could be a sort of a communal plaque at the top of the park, which would name some of the trees that are planted in memory of people.
Great idea.
So I think that it also could be a gift, and that may resonate with a lot of people in our community.
Okay. So, Mayor Little, the suggestion is maybe in brackets, park benches, trees, tables, or park benches, tables, trees, etc. Just to.
Yes, through the chair, I think we could also have monetary donations to purchase trees.
Okay.
Because we don't want people showing up with a 40-foot tree, but yes, word it some way. I mean, you're very good with wordsmithing, so just leave that as an option.
Okay.
There was one person who was wanting to contribute like up to $5,000 at the time to plant some trees at the newly named Blaney Trail.
Okay.
Blaney Park, rather.
Great. I'll work with staff, Ms. Hanson, probably to get that in there. So,
Councillor Donaldson?
Yes, thank you, through the chair. Councillor Jochen, we have talked about doing something like memorial trees, but do we have an identified type of tree or trees? Maybe we should have a future conversation about that and maybe consult with somebody like Katie Nelson, you know, for something that's more of a native planting, or fruit trees, that sort of thing. I could see that on the municipal property, that's ALR.
Yeah.
Maybe in alignment with that.
I guess one thing that would concern me about the trees, I mean, it's a great idea, but who's going to water them and look after them? So if that becomes another job for Public Works, because it would be pretty sad if somebody wanted a beautiful tree and then a year later it's nothing but dead branches. So, and the other thing, I mean, I know this is the right way to do it, but I find it quite sad that after 10 years, if there's no family able to contact, that those plaques will just, I don't know, go to recycling or the metal bin or something. It's just kind of sad that they're usually, you know, for people who've really contributed to the community or been a big part of the community. And it seems to me that maybe there should be some option if the relatives can't be notified or take those plaques, just somewhere we could put them up on the side of a building or something. I don't know. It just seems, but anyway, that was just a thought when I read that. But otherwise, thank you very much for all the work, and it's going to be nice to have those issues refined.
Great.
Councillor Gray.
I don't have any questions. I'll vote in favor of the motion. I just want to say thanks to Councillor Shukin and the crew. I guess PTask has worked on this a bit, and to the staff who've put their energy into it. I like the idea of the trees and adding that and the edits that the mayor suggested. And I think Councillor Epp's given us some practical considerations, but perhaps those can be sorted, and as long as the PTask group thinks that's reasonable.
Yeah, and to your point, Councillor Epp, if I think if there are notable citizens out there, there will be some knowledge of their presence in the community. And my bet too is that even after the 10-year period expires, there's likely to be a bit of a lag before action is taken. So, but yeah, the point would be to keep the plaque. But there's also an onus too on the owner to, you know, inform where they are.
Right.
Yeah. So we tried to balance duration with the fact that there might be other interest in the bench and also cost as well, because there is a maintenance fee that goes along with these. So, yeah.
Mayor Little.
Regarding watering, there was one donor who had set up a memorial garden there, and she was bringing in water on her back. So there was quite a bit of effort on behalf of the Parks and Trails and Katie Nelson and Anne, I've forgotten her last name, helping us design the new Blaney Trail to bring in piped water. So there are hoses that are donated from old hoses from the fire department there, and there is access to water. So there is an ability to water the trees, and we were paying some local kids a nominal fee to water some of the plants that were being done there. So I think it could be. And regarding the type of trees, of course, we wouldn't accept any invasive trees, but that could be easily dealt with at the Parks and Trails.
Okay, well, I guess we did make a motion, right? Or did we?
I would move that the committee recommend council adopt the new Public Works Policy W10086, donation to community parks, and that Public Works Policy W100.8, donations, and that Public Works Policy W100.8, donations to the community parks, be rescinded, and further that the Parks Donation Program guidelines for staff also be rescinded. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Mayor Little. Any more discussion on that?
I just realized that in the discussion here, I missed the point, and perhaps it's here. But let's say the donated bench has lived 10 years and the plaque comes off of it. Does the person who, say, puts a new plaque on pay the full cost, or simply the cost of the plaque, or how does that work? And I'm not meaning to get too complicated. Is that part of this?
It's an interesting question.
So, okay, again, the line is the cost of the donated item includes installation materials, including graffiti coating for a park furniture plaque, and a maintenance fee of 20% of the material costs. I don't know.
Maybe it's the 20% of whatever the maintenance cost is.
Yeah, the maintenance
Or if
fee.
there's multiple plaques that might accumulate too.
Totally. So again, what I think is, okay, so what I think the logic of this is that if you renewed and you were the person whose family is being memorialized, you would pay the 20% maintenance fee. And in reality, though, if someone is taking up that bench, you're not paying for installation. You're paying to keep the bench going. So, and I believe that there's a part in here where it talks about how staff will, I think,
If I may, through the chair.
Thank you.
I believe you're looking under record keeping, part 3B, the master list and site availability, that clause.
So there is, with this clause, there is an attempt by staff. It's in the policy here, to make contact with donors. I think in reality, I mean, if we want to make a, I think it's really clear with, if you extend the period, you're paying the maintenance fee for sure. Yeah, so, yeah, I think we should keep it at that. Yeah, if we want to, 10 years from now, and we'll all be sitting around this table, 10 years from now, we can maybe update the policy if it's unclear, but it basically starts today. As soon as council approves it. So.
Councillor Gray?
I have no problem approving the policy as it's written today. I'm just, it was as people were talking, I thought, what happened? So I hadn't thought of it before looking through it. And so I think it's fine to proceed, and then maybe we could kick it back to PTASK and just say, hey, there's this one other thing, any ideas? And we don't need to rush this. It's just that someone might have or even going home as we go home tonight, we'll think of something to do. So yeah. I say get it done, and then we can come back and revisit as a new idea comes forward.
Marilyn?
Yeah, I would just add in, Councillor Shu can perhaps add a note in 3H saying that if I don't know what you call it, the next family that takes over the bench, they're responsible for the maintenance. And then I was just thinking, isn't there room for more than one plaque on a bench? Couldn't you keep that plaque and put another plaque on it? There's lots of space. It's not going to impede sitting on it. Could you consider that as well?
Yeah, and we have there is a bench in the works where there will be 2 plaques, and they've agreed to split the maintenance costs. So yeah, so.
All right, so all in favor of this then?
Great, thank you.
All right, you have another recommendation there, the roadside shoulder enhancement planning.
Sure. This is an issue that appears to keep coming up. And even when I was an observer of council, I felt I witnessed a number of times situations where roads were going to be paved, and either PTASK or citizens came and said, couldn't you put a roadside trail, or couldn't you enhance the shoulder? And I actually remember making a note of myself that catch this in February because it might be something to look at. So, and then we have a paving project on Lindholm, and I will say that a certain Parks and Trails committee was quite annoyed at me that I didn't bring it back to them for consideration of a wider shoulder. So what we have brought here is, it's a reminder to us all essentially that we keep an eye on this and just remember to throw it back to PTASK. And again, this will be the council liaison's job. But also, I mean, hopefully the table will be able to remind and think about this stuff. The roads that are subject to paving come to us in the capital budget. And so that's the time maybe when we can be reminded to bring it back to PTASK for a possible consideration of a wider shoulder. So,
well, I really appreciate this because I've brought it up every year for the last 7 and never seemed to get very far with it. So I think having something actually written down might get action. I do question the one comment was, but advising the committee about all upcoming road works. I think that needs to be a little more defined, because that could be mowing grass. You know, it could be almost anything. I think maybe you need to stick to the shouldering or something that's a little more, because they're not going to be getting in touch with the committee when they're going to mow grass or do regular maintenance or scrape the edges or, you know, things like that. So I think Councillor Donaldson was next.
Thank you. Councillor Jochen, I just had a question, and actually now that Councillor Epps said something else, and I'm wondering, so we're talking about shouldering. Are we talking about expanding the paving to make a bike path, or is it the shoulder beyond the tarmac for a wider shoulder or possible trail? And so that would be my first question. The second one was, this is always being understood. It's just lack of communication. And one of the biggest ones that I found that became really clear where staff hadn't communicated to PTASK was the area in front of Fernie Farm. And Public Works actually had consulted me. I was involved with MES doing trail work at the time. And it was Eric Meredith, actually. He was saying, oh, so, you know, we're going to do this. And I said, oh, that's just great. And then the paving came along and there was new gravel put down, and all of the work that Public Works had done was covered up. And so there was, you know, just another layer of gravel. It made everything narrower because it's now higher and stuff like that. So where it says here on the second part, and that council advised Parks and Trails, I think it's probably staff should advise Parks and Trails. So the communication, I'm not sure why it says council, because staff is going to know more about when the paving contracts and schedule is happening. We will discuss, of course, the budget of paving or the schedule at the beginning of the year. But when it actually comes out that they're there, or when CRD is putting in water lines, those sorts of things, I'm just thinking the shorter period of time, one less voice involved, just go directly from staff to PTASK. I don't know. I just kind of question it. Should it be staff or should it be council? We would have already, you know, budgeted.
Oh, sir.
I think that it's actually missing a word, and it should be the council liaison. And it should be something like in the order to give the council liaison to Parks and Trails, advise Parks and Trails of all upcoming paving works. I get Councillor Epps' point about road works. How about paving works? Road paving works?
Or the capital road resurfacing plan, maybe?
Capital road repaving plan. Road resurfacing plan. Thank you.
Councillor Gray.
I think that fair enough that the council liaison would do this, but it seems to me that the staff have got the documents. They can, you know, once they're approved, they go to the PTASK to get on the next agenda. I'm just worried, as we said, my notes to myself was, why isn't this already happening? We talked about it a lot. So I would have just thought it's a function, but I know the CA is not here this evening, but it would just become an automatic thing that occurs, and then we're not relying on somebody to remember the date or what was going on. As soon as it's available, we provide it. And then it should, from my point of view, it's not so much a council job, but the idea that the CEO will know that something's going on and tell them, pass it along. I'm okay if you want to leave it as it is, but I would have said it's a staff function at this point. Fail safe.
Well, I suspect it wouldn't happen that way, because I almost feel like what Councillor Epp is saying, maybe it's been left at the hands of staff who are just inundated often. But what if it was modified to say, second provision here, and that staff and or the appropriate council liaison advise the Parks and Trails Committee as soon as possible of the Capital Road resurfacing plan. So again, we've got staff and or the liaison, it's probably both. And then again, correct the words of like paving, essentially.
Yeah, I think Councillor Gray makes a good point, because I think as council liaison for Public Works that I don't get informed about what they're doing. So I think that, unless something changes there, but I think getting staff in there somewhere would be a really good thing, because otherwise it basically is just the same. You could say that, which is what we've said, and that means, but it never actually happens.
Okay. So Councillor, are you suggesting go with Councillor Gray's thing? Just say.
I'd say staff advise the council liaison.
Well, we direct the CAO, so the CAO, and then he can or she can figure out who to give it to.
Just something, yeah.
Okay.
Just for accountability, if you say the CAO does that, then that's who we direct. We don't direct the staffs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I did an and or the appropriate council liaison advise. Do you want to strike that, or?
Oh, sure, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Just.
I think we should do both. Just
put it on there. Just cover all the bases.
My worry is that we don't know who's doing it. So if we want to get it done, you name the person who's doing it, and it's clear. And it doesn't happen, you can say, hey, that didn't happen. We need to get a process in place.
Okay. Yeah, there's some logic to that, I guess.
The CEO can always ask, hey, would you do that for me?
Yeah.
And you cover that off.
Okay. Why don't we go with that?
Okay.
Good. Okay. I'll move that the committee recommend that council direct staff to consider roadside shoulder enhancement during the planning of annual road work. Or how about Tina, we say capital road resurfacing planning as part of the district's commitment to support safe, active transportation, and that the CAO advise the Parks and Trails Advisory Select Committee as soon as possible of the capital road resurfacing of upcoming works as part of the capital road resurfacing plan. And that the Parks and Trails Advisory Select Committee be given an opportunity to provide input on shoulder enhancement opportunities as part of the forthcoming roadwork. So moved.
All right, any more discussion? All in favor? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, I guess that's me. So for my update, it's all down here, so I'm going to go over it all. Just I thought the Public Works part about the seeming increased amount of garbage and refuge around was kind of illustrated last week when actually it was my daughter that mentioned that there had been these sort of buckets and markers, pylons on the corner on Rocky Point by Taylor Road, and they'd been there for quite some time. And so I contacted Public Works, and they said that actually it was human refuge in the buckets. And so the company was supposed to be coming to pick it up, but didn't show. They did eventually come, but it's just an example of what the Public Works crew has to deal with on the sides of our roads, and why it's getting worse. I don't really know, but it's too bad. So we have heard about the lines on Duke Road, which I thought was quite a real exciting thing that we've been trying to follow the BC Active Transportation Guide and get some of the road safety issues, covered in our community, and we certainly have done some. It was an engineered plan, and so anyway, I'm glad that we heard about the problems with it, or you've heard about that, and we will get that dealt with. But I think it will be nice to have that portion of road a little bit safer for walkers and strollers and cyclists. The other is we finally got the solar activated pedestrian crosswalk lights at Hans Helgeson. So from, I don't know how many years, maybe even a couple of decades, that people first started trying to get something done about that crosswalk. So it's taken quite a few years, and a lot of money in grants from Vision Safety and Road Safety and ICBC that have covered all the flashing, the signs and the lights and the road work. So, it's really exciting to actually see that. Of course, I never heard from, after all the lobbying that we've had about that, I never heard from anybody except to say, why didn't we have an overhead flashing light? As far as the Seniors Association, the big thing is the flu clinic coming up on November 1st at the school. It'll go from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And they have all their regular programs going. They seem to be more all the time, bus trips to the Rocky Point Observatory and going to Royal Bay Park and the shopping and other their programs they have going on. So they really are a going concern there. The Healthy Communities Committee held a free movie night in September. Unfortunately, it wasn't very well attended, so we had a lot of popcorn left over. And so we had a bunch of short animated films, as well as a really neat film on the Great Bear Rainforest. So, I guess it's just that there's too many, it's just so easy to access movies and everything else in your living room. I think that's probably part of it. But it went well. Like the picture showed up really well on the gym wall there. Last Saturday, Councillor Donaldson will know more about this than I do, but at the Healthy Communities and the Metchosin Growing Society got together in the rain to hold a garden festival and open house. Apparently it was really quite well attended. There's going to be a full report, which will be going on the Healthy Communities side, going to the Healthy Communities Committee meeting, and then we'll be presenting it at the next committee of the whole. One thing, I don't have all of this written down, so one thing some of us did was go on a tour of the Western Canada Marine Response site at Beecher Bay, and the Solio building was open. It's a huge building and just all full of their supplies, and people got to tour some of the boats. There was way more people that came than they expected, so it was really neat to see. It was a beautiful day that helped. I was really lucky because given my prestigious position as a councillor, it was exciting. I got to go and tour the KJ Gardiner, the big boat. They have the main big boat. It was just absolutely incredible to go up to the bridge, which is just packed full of 360 degrees of computer equipment. They have 11 staff on there all the time, change about every month. They have a capability of I think 21 on there. It's really amazingly set up. And one of the most notable things was, well, they can go out in almost all kinds of weather, and they have two massive engines, and they're actually capable of towing a fully loaded barge, a fully loaded oil barge tanker. So, it was good. I mean, nothing is perfect out there as far as if we ever get an oil spill, but it's sure nice to know that we have that close at hand anyway. The Wonderfuka Performing Arts Center is having an arts gala to try to get support and hopefully funding for an art center. They've been working on this for decades to try to get this. So the gala is $130 a ticket, and there'll be all kinds of entertainment and I think a beverage ticket and food and snacks. So it'll be a very entertaining evening. One of the highlights of their entertainment is these performers on these massive stilts. They're really quite amazing. And we do have a note from the fire chief on what's been going on there. Yeah, I did say brief. Anyway, they're bringing on 8 new recruits in November. It's a joint program with ESUC and SUC. they're applying for new grants this month for the EOC and the ESS Center, and they have finished up on the Portable Emergency Operations Center trailer. It's a commander unit, is that what you're calling it? Oh, sorry, I can't read this. Communications unit. So I'm sure there's a lot more stuff going on, but we'll catch up next time. All right, so that would be my update.
That's a question.
Yes, Marilyn.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting, you sort of breezed over it, but the installation of the pedestrian activated crossing lights at Hans Helgeson, it has been a couple of decades that the parents at Hans Helgeson have been asking for that crosswalk, and you have gone out and applied for these Vision Zero road safety grants, and then also the crossing at the Galloping Goose at Kangaroo and Rocky Point Road, where the sidewalk is aligned in a very safe position as opposed to pedestrians riding across the street diagonally, I think is really great. And those lights, you can see them for a couple of blocks. So I think you deserve a round of applause.
Thank you.
I know you've been advocating not only this council but last council for those, and it'll go a long way for safe passage. So kudos to you.
Yes, thank you very much.
I have a question. I agree. I applaud you, especially with those 3 crossings, the one at Glen Forest as well. I'm surprised how many people just zoom right through, but anyways, they are, people are getting better educated on that. It's super busy with those 3 lanes. But the school has been quite significant. And I think that, everybody at the school probably is more and more appreciative every single day. I've gone there through a few times and I have to crawl through there. So it really is, not that I did before, but I have a friend that lives right next there. So it's great. I'm really pleased that this has, it's been a long haul, but it's coming to fruition, and I think it's doing great wonders. In regards to what Mr. Lamb had said earlier, I didn't know that the painting had been done over on Duke Road. So I saw something posted somewhere, and there was this abrupt thing that, well, I'm going to go and have a look. I was on my way back from the market, and yeah, it came up really fast. So I'm just wondering I realize there's probably going to be some remediation, but sometimes when there's a change in intersections or traffic, there'll be a sign posted for a while that say traffic pattern change, if we could have something like that. The other thing that I was thinking is there's these signs that are black and orange, and they're diagonal for when there's, usually see them on things like bridges, but if we had something like that to just sort of warn people that this is what's coming up, it does really hit quite quickly, but certainly you've got a handle on what's going to happen next. But it was an observation, but certainly letting people know that there's a change. I don't go there that often, so I wouldn't have had a habit of going, but yeah, see people know coming over a little bit of a bump in the road or whatever there, that would be
that's a good idea.
Yeah, just to let them know what's coming ahead, especially now that we're getting into the winter months and different daylight and fog and stuff.
Yeah, good idea. Councillor Gray?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a couple of questions, but the Duke Road East has come up. And I don't really want to talk about the merits of the project, but the process. And it sounds like, Mayor Little, did you know about the project? The line painting and that? Yeah, because 3 of you knew about the line painting, but 2 of us didn't know anything about it. And the project, all of the time that we've dealt with this, it's been on council's agenda. The need for the project, the necessity for a survey, the survey cost approved, phase 1 approved using whatever project money we put forward. July 14th that we approved phase 3 line painting was postponed. So I mean, I looked up the minutes there, and it's, the council discussion ended with by consent. Further discussion of proposed recommendations was postponed for discussion at council. Then on August 19th, PTASC meets and resolves to recommend to endorse a recommendation to council for travel line painting to support safer passage along Duke Road. We never received that recommendation and line painting went ahead. I think the council should be informed about things. If something comes to the table for a decision by us, it has to come to us for a final decision. I don't know the reasons why it proceeded. I wasn't involved, but it's like the three council members know about it, 2 council members don't know about it, and I'm not sure how the decision was made. Was any attempt made to put it on the council agenda? Do our deliberations mean anything? How is, I'm just thinking about accountability and transparency. Again, the merits of the project are one thing, the process is what I'm not sure about. So I want to make a motion that the Committee of the Whole recommend that Council direct the CAO to prepare a flow chart for Council with regard to Council-approved projects and expenditure controls. If someone has seconded, I'll say what I'm talking about.
A second for discussion.
I think we need to better understand spending decisions to fulfill our governance role. And I'm not wanting to criticize anybody here, particularly staff or council members. It's just we're not following proper governance and processes. And this is good evidence of it. And I just think that we should do our role. And if the CEO could help us understand that, that's what the motion's about. CEO, could you please help us understand when we're involved in a project, how that works and how it should work in the future. So we don't need to go back over what happened. I'm talking about going forward. Thank you.
Well, the CAO isn't here to respond, but there was money left remaining in the line painting budget. So it was kind of a quick thing because this is actually something not just that PTAS brought up this year. It was last year as well, that part that Public Works was going to do those lines and then said they wanted to have it engineered first. So it was engineered and there was money left over. So it had to be a fairly quick decision because they're only around for so long and the weather only holds for so long. But I think Councillor Shukin, you had
Sure. I mean, I'll just say it's years ago that I suggested we move the lines rather than all the discussion we had about filling in the ravines on either sides and all that. And at first it seemed that that was an unpopular idea. Well, now it's been completed. But again, process.
Well, I don't know about it being unpopular. It wasn't with me, but anyway. Councillor Shukin.
So really quickly, as I understand it, the road painting, I get this from Mr. Creek, the completed budget, the budget at the time this project was underway was 67,000, with the total being, I think it was 92,000, something in that order, 90,000. This project cost 22,000. So it was actually pretty modest in terms of what we had previously been expecting. But the reason Mr. Payette decided to go for it is because it was limited and we had to act very quickly to book the machine and get the weather window to do the painting. And as you say, Councillor Epp, this work was actually scheduled to take place a number of years ago and it was missed. So just as part of the normal budgeted line painting process. So last year.
Councillor Donaldson.
It's probably nothing to do with your update, but as we're talking about that, is this related to the 38,000 you came to us before and I said, oh, bring it to the budget time? Was that this project? Okay, so then my question is, because I've lost track, so bear with me. So we had phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. So is this phase 3?
The project has adapted as we go. And it's unclear how much work will actually be done on the other 2 phases, but this would be generally considered phase 3. But again, it is line painting. It's not a trail. It's not, So, yeah. I do want to hearken back to July 31st, 2024, where we had 45 people in this room. Everyone was concerned about traffic safety and the ability of walking on that shoulder. And I didn't hear anybody objecting to putting safety implementations of or safety measures in there. So by narrowing the road and widening the shoulder, you actually do achieve, it is a joint traffic calming method established, and as I understand it. So,
okay, Councillor Gray.
Yeah, the merits of the project aside. So the motion is that this committee recommend that council direct the CEO to prepare a flow chart for council with regard to council approved projects and expenditure controls, just so we're clear how it works so we can follow it in future.
Mayor Little?
Yeah, I was just trying to recall, and I think Councillor Rep, you can verify this. Wasn't this in the last year's budget? Wasn't it planned? Wasn't it approved? And then it didn't happen for some reason.
Well, so we brought it to the table. I can't remember the details, but I know I was quite surprised when I drove down Duke Road after the line painting and found out it hadn't been done. And it turned out that was a decision of the Public Works chief or somebody.
Okay.
And
so then the work that was just completed is really completing work that had been approved and presumably in the budget last year, but we're not incurring further budget. It was money that was left over in the budget, in the line painting budget.
Yeah, from this year, yeah, Councillor Gray.
Yeah, that may be so. The point is it came to council. I might get my dates wrong here. Came to council on July 14th. The CEO could have spoken at that point and said, hey, we're doing this anyway, you guys, we'll take care of it. I'm just to understand how this works. Would have been happy if that had come up that day and we got the approvals on the go. It's just confusing to be a council member where we're tackling these issues and hammer and tonging them, and then suddenly they occur and you think, what? How'd that happen? We didn't ever talk about it again. After it was postponed for further discussion, after PTAS recommended to council, even an email note to say, hey, we're going to proceed with this, it's, some explanation so we can deal with it.
I'm going to interrupt because we need to make a motion to continue past 10 o'clock.
Thank you.
Is that seconded by Mayor Little? All in favor? All right. I also think that we do leave most roadworks up to staff. So I think, I won't support this because I think it was a kind of something our CAO had an opportunity and money in the budget for and made the decision to do it. So maybe it wasn't a perfect procedure, but I'm happy that he did that and then it got done instead of having to wait another year, which is what we would have had to do. I don't know who was next. Go ahead.
Yeah, to the chair, I was just going to mention that is that we give direction. Direction was given last year to the CAO and he does operationally guide this municipality. I think we have to give him some leeway, especially when he's trying to save money and take advantage of the line painting within this calendar year. Also, he's not here to defend himself or to explain. So I would not support this motion, but I think it reckons that we should have a conversation with him about it, and I'm sure he'd be happy to have that conversation.
I used to have monthly meetings with the CEO and he's canceled those. I think that it's just fair. I'm not talking about what happened. As I say, I'm not trying to allocate blame. I'm just saying going forward, could we not have, just a flow sheet to show us how it works? We're concerned about the past. I'm talking about the future so that we know, and then it won't be a surprise. We'll say, oh yeah, that's how it works.
Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, I'm more, well, and I've had some of my questions answered, just understanding the phases, of course, the budget, because when a constituent says something, I'm like, oh, I didn't know. So it is a communication thing, whether it's a flow chart or we used to get weekly or bi-weekly reports, and I know things are really busy, so I don't expect anything, but when I get them, I'm always thrilled. So I had no way of actually answering the queries, which is why I went and looked myself. And then, of course, Councillor Epp has answered and affirmed that, we can probably do something to alert people, and, people have mentioned it, and now I understand the phases are kind of, but it would be nice actually to understand where we're at with the phase, because people are asking that too, like what's this and what's that, and where are we with money, because budget's coming up and that sort of thing, just so that we can be better prepared to answer some questions or field those questions maybe, because we've gotten quite a bit done, I think, so that would be helpful. Thank you.
And I think we just have a different problem if three members of council know what's going on and 2 members don't. So it's a plea here to function like I believe the councils are meant to function. And so we know what's going on, especially when something's been decided at our table or brought to our table. It doesn't then sort of disappear as this one seems to have done.
All right, we call the question on Councillor Gray's motion. All in favor? Opposed? That's 1 in favor was Councillor Gray. Everyone else opposed.
Can I ask a different question, Councillor Epp? The fire hall open house, will that be discussed at some point, either at this table or at council table, just to learn the purpose, what the format is, what's going on?
I don't have any information on that.
No, you might not have information, but as a liaison for Public Works and Protective Services, the open house is coming. Will we have a discussion here to learn about it beforehand?
I don't know. Perhaps
Do we know who's hosting it?
Yeah, the district is hosting it. This was discussed at the last Fire Hall Steering Committee meeting. Councillor Donaldson and Councillor Epp, your liaisons at that committee. So I suspect it was on the agenda. I wasn't at the meeting. Yeah, if you would like to have information about it at the next council meeting, that can be arranged.
Thank you.
I wasn't able to attend the meeting, so Councillor Donaldson was there.
Yeah, I was there, and so just briefly, all it said on the agenda was open house, so there was no background or description or anything. So when the CAO did his report, came out a little bit there, and it came a little bit later on in the agenda because sometimes we bounce around a little bit. And so in reading the minutes, we will be going back and fleshing out some details, I guess. There was a lot of questions as what was the purpose of doing it, who would be there, what was it actually for. This was after the CEO gave us some information on the UBCM's Strategic Priorities Grant and a meeting with the grant people on that. And then he announced to us that the mayor would be actually hosting this open house, but we didn't know if it was on billboards or not, or whatever, but in their minutes, it looks like they're gonna go back and flesh out some of that. So the committee themselves didn't really know anything about it. At least that was the sense I got because we were grappling with lots of ideas and whatnot. It was also reported that from the CAO that the JDA architect would be there with his final report of the feasibility study. My query was if they're there, would it be, it's not in the minutes, but it was part of the discussion. Would that take place in the chamber or would it take place in the fire hall? If it's in the fire hall, then it's not live streamed as which it was council business, so that was where that would be. So those are some things that were floating around that were part of a discussion but not recorded in the minutes. So still some unknowns, except that there's a date. So the CEO did say it was November 12th and that the mayor was hosting it, and there is, I don't know what the total plan is yet or who's involved in planning.
To the chair, can I ask Councillor Johnson, is it okay if it's on the next agenda of the council meeting so we can learn about the purpose and what's going on?
Well, I think it says, I think it says something actually in the Fire Hall Steering Committee minutes.
I see nothing there about the purpose.
No, the purpose isn't there. Somebody's making plans, but I don't know who all the people are. So,
well, if it's a council agenda item, then we should know what it is before it happens.
Well, perhaps when the CEO returns, we can request a report from him on what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right, so next we have the update from Councillor Gray, the Environment and Natural Areas Committee.
So I just have a verbal report today. And I wanted to report on an amazing experience that I had a few weeks ago when I joined Shiano Council on a boat tour, walk in the woods on Mary Hill, and then a special dinner hosted by Pearson College, all the native Siano Nation moving ahead on the establishment of Siano Tribal Park on Mary Hill. This initiative represents Siano's choice to dedicate the majority of its treaty lands to a conservation outcome and forego conventional development on its lands. Ultimately, the tribal park aims to ensure Siano members can return home and rebuild their heritage for future generations. I was struck again at the generosity of Siano in their hope to include their community, sharing the land, education experiences with a greater community, that's us and others. At this time, the plan is to raise approximately $15 million to preserve Mary Hill as a tribal park. This value represents the foregone cost of conventional development on the lands in favor of Siano-led ecological stewardship, cultural revitalization, conservation-compatible economic development, and healing. You can learn more by visiting www.sianotribalpark.ca. And at our last meeting, I shared a document that's going around with the staff and council to look at, but it's available and the details are on the website. MEAS took a break over the summer months, but we meet again next Tuesday, so I expect to have more to report at our next COW meeting in November. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Shukin on community planning.
Sure, very quickly. Parks and Trails Master Plan, I'm hoping to have a draft to this table at the November meeting. That'll be just a draft of the main body of text. There's mapping and some information sheets yet to come. On our goal is to do one on each of the park and trail assets. Friends of the Bufferland is a grassroots community group that's taking shape, and the goal is for them to begin looking at restoration efforts on the Bufferland, and also potentially helping the district with some of the planning as well. So you are likely going to hear from them in December. And the Metchosin Invasive Species Collective, again, congratulations to Neil and Brenda West. They have reached an agreement with the CRD for invasive removal at Whitty's Regional Park, Matheson Lake, Rosh Cove, and then sections of the Galloping Goose as well. And there's already work parties that are planned especially in Whitty's as well. And I just wanted to make a note about Metchosin Day. You know, it was a great event, but like everything, there are costs, unexpected costs, or escalating costs. And in this case, one particularly notable one was garbage collection, which, as I understand it, had in previous years actually been provided gratis by the company. But this year they were charging us, so that brought up the extra costs. And so we normally allocate $10,000 in terms of supporting Metchosin Day, and this year we're going to the committee's going to have to access $800. So we're already beginning to think about how we can reduce costs for next year. So, for example, one of the flaggers, we have a flagging crew that's there, and we can cut one of those people cut that group by one. So that'll help us reduce costs. So yeah, lots of thinking going on there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Donaldson, an update on finance. This is what we all love.
Well, talking about all my portfolios, not finance. Actually, with finance, we have our first budget meeting coming up on Thursday this week, the 23rd. So prepare yourselves. As we can hear, there's lots of asks, there's lots of stressors with finances, bailing people out of financial situations, whether it's our annual fair or subsidizing the arts, or incidentals with washed out stairs and stuff like that. So there's all sorts of things coming up, and then we got the big ones with paying for policing and e-com and replacing the fire hall and those sorts of things. So it will be a robust season of dialogue. We're starting early this year and getting hopefully the most of it, if not all of it. I say with optimism before Christmas, but we'll see where Mr. Creek takes us. So on to agriculture. Farmers market has been so busy this season. Probably one of the best years in many, many, many years of busyness. We see a video come out every Monday morning of what took place the day before. Apparently I missed the little piglet this week. I saw that posted this morning, so it was kind of neat. All the farm stands and farms also have said it started out with a bit of a wet, sort of dry. Anyways, hard to get seeds going in May, but they all did very well. It was a good growing season, very intense, not too hot. Community garden, again, another one that grew successfully in a place we didn't think much was going to grow. But it has, and they had their pumpkin fundraiser on the weekend, and of course it just poured. But anyways, they were all in really good spirits. The kids we finally moved indoors, and it got a little bit crowded. Probably shouldn't have been in that one spot, but we made do for the hour that we were there, and the kids were just actually getting right into saving seeds. And farmers from Roaming Raven Farm came and did demonstrations on carving pumpkins, so that was really cool. It was Adam and Rosie Rands came out, and they're most willing to come back next year. I learned a lot. It was really, really neat. I didn't get my hands into it, but maybe I'll try that this year. West Shore Parks and Recreation, we're talking about our budget. More will come out of that. Everything is draft right now. They have a new mobile app for more expansion of self-service when it comes to registering at the registration desk. That's a real hot spot there, so they're working through that, and that's we'll see more of that. On-site storage project. This is something new. We've had a lot of requests to put sea cans on the property, and similar to Metchosin, sea cans scattered here and there without any guidelines of colors or placement or whatever can be a distraction and a hindrance. So they've located 2 spots where they're going to have these, and they will buy them new. Some of them will have heat specifically for the hockey teams, the youth hockey teams. I learned that one of the hockey teams academies from Spencer, the buses that they're using, I'm sure they said it was electric buses. They can't put the gear in there. I'm not sure if it's to do with the heating or it's something to do with weight and sliding, but also the gear has to go into a separate van, and that gets more expensive. So they wanted to look for something on site. Another hockey group came to us. They wanted to move from the Q Center up to the Fuca Center, and looking for expansion of change rooms and that sort of thing. So there will be some costs that we have to look at who's paying for what there. Most often it's the tenants that would be paying for these sorts of things, but the sea cans, the staff figured out that if they got the sea cans that they're looking at, put a roof over them, that preserves them a little longer, put some lighting in, that in 4 years they would have paid for themselves. They would be rented out to whoever the users are. We're aware of the master plan is ongoing, and thanks for those who gave me some feedback. So I've pushed that back off to the staff at West Shore. Also on the same topic of finances, the Victoria Public Library is going through their budget as well. They have hired, they've had a difficult time hiring staff since COVID, but they have been successful now in getting back their COVID staff, not fully, but better. 9 assistant librarians, so that'll be reflective in their budget as well. They did experience some labor disruption with during UBCM actually, with the BCGU, but that has now been addressed. So everybody's working within the library. So it got stalled for one day. Everything was shut down. And then the digital access is something I've been working on with CERC and the library, just to promote library services, because a lot of residents here may or may not understand that we actually can do a lot of things just through our devices, whether it's computers or phones or tablets or whatever, not to drive into the library weekly or whatever the usage is, but you can actually download all sorts of information, whether it's periodicals, books, audiobooks, saving things. I'm actually going to go to that. That's this Thursday, the 23rd, for 1 hour over at Zurich, and learn how to do it myself. I've been at the library board and I still don't know how to do this. So anyways, that's kind of exciting, bringing library here. There's a few other things. Residents have been asking about having a library in Metchosin. That's not likely going to happen. We already have 3 libraries in the West Shore. Maybe at some point there would be a satellite library put into Royal Bay. We don't know, but one of the things that I did bring up with staff at a board meeting was maybe doing something like a bookmobile that is specific to curated books for Metchosin. So we're going to look at what the logistics are on that. They're very interested in working with us on that. So, because you know, we have different demographics here than say Colwood or Langford, and the library's just a little bit further. But nice to know that the circus is going to have their little bus taking people regularly, although I think that's probably only for seniors, but I don't know, maybe they'll open it up to, well, I think seniors is about 55 plus, so I could probably get in on that. But anyways, I don't know, we'll see. Other people are working during the day if it's a daytime thing. Yeah, and then UBSM, lots of different things there with ministry meetings are always interesting. Only one really stood out in favor for us if they could provide some resources. The others, again, everybody's tightening up their budgets and whatnot, so there's not any money to be had per se for grants. The ag tour was, it was going to be a very long day, but I was so glad that I actually went on it and got to talk to some of the farmers firsthand of what they're dealing with out on the peninsula. The geese were a big one, where there's grain crops from the one farm I went to. It's called Field 5 Farm. I kept having to read the 5 to know which order the words were in, because it's Field 5 Farms at 3S. That was quite fascinating. They grow grain for the beverage industry, and they have a big malting plant there, but they're having problems with geese eating their seedlings. And I remember that being reported out at PAC. So that was brought up again on that tour. The tour over at Mitchell's farm, as we had been at North Star Farm, they had strings up for geese. They don't have a problem. So one of the politicians from Up Island had brought up to Mr. Mitchell about stringing over his 400 acres to prevent geese, and of course the logistics of that are unattainable. So he was very polite on how he responded to that. So, but it was all good information for us to have. Anyways, lots of good stuff at UBCM, always coming back with new ideas and broaden our perspective a bit. So that's all I have. See you Thursday.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so now we're on to the correspondence for action, which should be from the Metchosin Bullfrog Management Project. They would like to have sites 3 and 4 visited more than once a year. I'm not sure about cost of that, but I guess that will come up during the budget. But given the, you know, they are seem like they're very successful from their charts here at actually collecting these little rotters. I thought when they talked about the insides of the some of them that was ducklings and tree frogs and stuff, it's pretty awful, really, what those things can eat. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not sure about the bottom one. I think that for me, I think the CRD needs to do the survey of Matheson Lake. I don't think Metchosin really can afford to do that. So we could probably send a letter or something to encourage CRD Parks to do that. But that's would be my comments on it. What does everybody else think? Mayor Little?
Yeah, Stan Orchard, he's a very well-known herpetologist and has worked with the District of Metchosin on trying to eradicate these bullfrogs, which are so invasive, and they can, the females can lay I think millions of eggs. It's really quite terrible. So the work that they do is really important for minimizing the spread of the invasive species, but also to maintain biodiversity in those regions because they are so pervasively hungry. And so I would recommend that we write to the CRD and ask them to, or I can have a conversation, or Jay can have a conversation with somebody at the CRD regarding requesting support or requesting them to contract Stan Orchard for Matheson Lake. But I would also suggest that we recommend to council to have those sites 3 and 4, but it also looks like site 12 was listed as a special concern as well. So I think it'd be prudent of us to contract him for that site as well. Although sites 16 and 17, they were easily cleared of the bullfrogs, but there were bullfrogs there, and so I think we should stay on top of it at those 3 other sites as well. And then the first site, which was the Metchosin Golf Course, they felt that it was depopulated now. But this is one invasive species that if we don't stay onto it, they just proliferate like rabbits. So
If those were 2 motions or 1 motion, I'll second them. That the mayor write to the CRD.
Okay.
Was the first one, and the second one was that recommend to council sites 3, 4, and 12 should be visited more than one time.
3, 4, 12, and then sites 16 and 17.
Are we looking though for budget from Mr. Orchard?
Yeah, and I mentioned, I thought, so through the chair, I thought it would actually, our CFO Creek can bring us up on that.
Through the chair. So he's charging right now $500 a night. So if he added 2 more on, it'd be another $1,000. His bill for this one for 6 nights, $3,000. So just depending if he increased costs for 2026, but hopefully not too much. That's what you'd be looking at anyway. Thanks.
It doesn't seem to sound like sites 16 and 17 were really much of a concern.
Yeah, I tend to follow his recommendation.
Yeah.
3 and 4 is what he said. I think the mayor thought 12 was a bit special in another way.
Through the chair, I just mentioned 16 and 17 because his conclusions were that 16 and 17 were easily cleared of the large bullfrogs in 2025, but the question remains of where else they may arise in the vicinity. And so I just think if they think there's some bullfrogs remaining there, then it'd be great to eradicate them. But if council doesn't want to do those 2 sites, I would be happy with 3, 4, and 12.
Okay, is that acceptable in the motion? 3, 4, and 12, and that the mayor contact the CRD? Do you want to write reverb that motion? Councillor Shukin. Okay, that motion is moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Shukin, whatever exactly it is.
If the mayor made the motion, I said.
Sorry, Ms. Hanson. Yeah, the mayor's motion, sorry.
Sorry, it was that sites 3, 4, and 12 be revisited next year.
Right.
And that the mayor write a letter to the CRD requesting a comprehensive survey of Matheson Lake.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We can always depend on you to sort it out. Thank you. All right. I think we have no other business.
I call the question.
Oh yeah, sorry. Call the question. Like, all in favor, I think. Now, can move on, I think, to adjournment. Move adjournment. Okay, moved by Councillor Donaldson, second by Mayor Little. All in favor? Great.